We will begin with an invocation by Mountain View Baptist Church, and then we will have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Paul Bittman. You want to come forward?
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we love you. Thank you now for this time, and such an honor and a privilege to come in Jesus' name. Seek your face, Lord, and just so thankful for your goodness. I think about how blessed we are. A beautiful place. And Lord, you're so good to us. I pray now you'll give the wisdom that's necessary to conduct the business that's going to be set before the council. We thank you for that. Pray for our country and the needs and the things there, Lord. We need your grace. And we just thank you that we can come in Jesus' name. And I pray in his name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you so much.
Please stand and join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we will now move on to the agenda order approval. This is for both agendas. There are any items you would like changed, and if not,
Move to approve the agendas as presented.
is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hi,
Okay, we'll now go to council business.
Mayor. I would just like to publicly thank the individuals who volunteered last Saturday to help with the city downtown cleanup and our paint party we had. We had about 80 to 85 volunteers show up, and many of them were students from Southern Utah University, and we appreciate that very much. And it was good weather for us. We had no snow or rain like we did last fall, but it went very well. There's just a lot of red paint in downtown. We didn't get it all completed, but we got a lot of good stuff done. So I want to thank all those people for helping care about our community and make it look better. So thank you very much. Then on the negative side of things, I'm just wondering if we could check with our street department. And I noticed that the trash receptacles on Main Street are chock full, and they have been that way since the weekend. So we need to look at getting those things emptied. I know with commencement coming up this weekend, there'll be a lot of people in town, a lot of people walking the streets. So if we could look at that, I'd appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you. Are there any?
We had the opportunity to represent the city at the prayer breakfast this morning, and that was a wonderful event. One that would be nice to start every day that way. But it was just a great event. Great to see that kind of community unity, and that was essentially the theme of the prayer breakfast, and it was
Nice.
was very nice.
I have a couple things, Mayor. A couple issues arose on social media this last week, and I promised I'd bring them up. So there was the David Archuleta concert issue. Paul, did you look into that at all?
So I emailed Jason and Steve, and they haven't received, well, I might have received a response. I just haven't gotten to read it yet.
I guess the complaint was, the stage is quite low, and I know people like to get into these concerts and stand up in front, but it kind of blocked the view of some of the other guests that bought tickets, the more expensive seats up front, and so they were blocked and some couldn't stand, and so it created any thoughts on that, everybody?
Well, in reality, it probably wasn't the best venue for that type of a concert. Whether it's right or wrong, generally at most pop concerts, they do allow standing down front, and people
It's usually outdoors and a little higher stage,
or in a place like the Centrum or something. Yeah. So I don't know if there was a fault. If anything, it was probably maybe just a mix of the wrong artist in the wrong venue, but it was unfortunate that it happened for those people that purchased those tickets. I hate to fault the people that want to get into the concert, because I also understand in reading that the concert got, at least some people felt the concert got better and more connectivity once that happened.
That's what I read too.
So it was unfortunate that it had to happen. So we just probably should look at that in the future when we're booking certain kinds of events, if it's the right venue for that. That's my thoughts anyway.
I see both sides.
I agree.
Yeah, and it's a hard one because he's the one that everybody fell in love with on American Idol. And that's the generation that would be on the stage because he's their American Idol heartthrob.
Well, and I don't know whether his draw is large enough to fill a Centrum Arena. So that's also the issue is, was the Heritage the right size at about 1,000, 1,200 people? So it's a tough call.
And we're trying to find out for sure who controls like how much concert promoters and
Right.
what their role is and everything else.
So just have maybe a follow-up on that.
Once we get the information, we can follow back up with you.
Great.
Thanks.
Okay,
The other
thank you.
issue, I'm sorry, did you have something? The other issue was Thunderbird Gardens. I guess there's been a lot of complaints about pallets being burned up there and leaving behind. Maybe a chief, you want to talk about that? See, I don't know. It seems like they're burning pallets and trash and couches and TVs and
Ceiling fan.
I guess there's a lot of stuff going on.
Chief Adams with the police department. I've got some pictures here.
Don't break that.
Try not to
You
the
break it,
remote.
it comes out of your budget.
Yeah. $3.70. But I've got some pictures here that I took that I've asked Kit to put on here. I took the city manager with me out there and then the fire chief, and he may want to comment on this as well.
Tried to ditch me out there.
Yeah, I tried to leave him there, but he
Like, told me to get out
ran
of the
too
truck.
fast.
Go look. And then he tried to get back into it.
Well, that shows very good judgment.
So,
He wanted you to clean it up is what he wanted.
So Dan Kidder was the one, and he's done a great job. I'll give him props for the time he spent out there with the Friends of Thunderbird Garden Group to really clean this place up. He called me out there several months ago to show me some of the concerns, and then I went out one night on a Friday just to check, and there was nobody there, but all of a sudden a flashlight hit me, and it was Dan in the trees kind of waiting to catch some kids. We had a good talk. And so here's the concern. If you look up here, and we're trying to strike the right balance with kids that want to get out and do some things in a recreational way without disturbing their neighbors within the city limits. And so if you contrast this site, and Kit, you can maybe flash through those different pictures. What you'll see here that you don't see in other areas of the county is a pretty clean area. There were 2 pop cans here, and everywhere else that we've encountered, for the most part, have trash and alcohol containers and things of that nature. So the ones that I've encountered, in fact, we had a car full of young men come up that night when Dan scared me with the light, that were from Cedar High. A football game had just concluded, and they just come up to have a good time. No alcohol. And so what kind of precipitated this last event was he was up there and found some kids burning pallets, which by ordinance are not allowed. I don't know how many college-age kids know that. And so one thing we talked about was signage that we could put up there to educate, which would help. The city manager and I talked about maybe even going up and digging this pit out, which I know the fire chief would support, and putting a ring in there with some benches to allow for a place for burning, just so that they understand, here's where you do it. These are the materials you can use, and then we can patrol that. I think Dan's concern was they've gone up there and pulled out staples and nails from the pallets, and that's been of concern, which I get, and I understand that completely. So we would maybe just put that out to you that we're willing to maybe improve that area and to put a ring in there, to put some signage up. I know Ryan Riddle with the Iron County Fire Warden is willing to do that as well. My brother works for the county road and does signs, and I'm sure he'd be willing to do those in cooperation. But I think it's education as well as enforcement, but also trying to find the balance between allowing these kids to find a place. Again,
They need a place to go do that.
right.
But with
And by and large, we've not encountered any that are underage drinking or vandalizing. Now, there have been some vandalism that Dan has found on the rocks. I don't know if that's connected or if those are different groups. He's actually taken his angle grinder up there and has removed that, which we appreciate. But that would maybe be our recommendation, and maybe some more discussion and thought on how you'd like us to proceed.
I think that sounds really.
I think that's a great idea.
From somebody who's been to bonfires out there, it's a really good spot.
They've been doing it for 40 years.
Oh,
Back
yeah.
when I was in school, we were doing it. But I think you're right. If this would encourage them to maybe find a collective space in which to do it and still enjoy themselves, because kids have to have a place to recreate and get out and do those kind of things. So I think it's a good solution.
Okay, I'll work with Paul and Mike, and we'll we'll see what we can do to move forward on that.
Great.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you both.
Mayor, I
Yes.
just got a quick item. Paul, maybe you can address this. I had some people ask if we could get the clock that's on the Heritage Center. Now, since we got it fixed, people are looking at it and it's about an hour off. I don't know if it was due to the daylight savings or what, but there's a few people, I guess, that are looking at that now that we've got it fixed
That's good.
a year or so ago. So if
You fix all the
I think it's only
other
about
logs.
50 minutes off or something.
My OSHA approved chair that I used to fix these other.
Yeah, that would be appropriate
We'll
for
figure
you.
it out.
Yeah, that's why I asked you.
All right.
Pass that along, Tim.
Are there any other comments, questions? Okay. Since we have so many people here, I'm going to bring this up. As you probably have realized, there's construction down Main Street. There will be construction down Main Street all summer long. We know there's construction down Main Street. It will be glorious once it's finished. It's going to be super inconvenient while it's happening. Please be patient. There will also be some going up the canyon and some going down 56. They're UDOT projects, but we're excited that it's happening so that when you drive down Main Street, it will actually be a smooth road. But getting to that point, there's going to be some pains this summer. So just please be patient. I promise you'll enjoy it once it's done. And also, SU commencement is Friday, so there'll be more people in town and all of that. So, and with that, we'll move on to staff comments with Jonathan.
Jonathan Stathis, City Engineering Department. We finished up the annual water report, and so we just wanted to give the mayor and council and staff an update on that report. Can I control this or this one?
Which remote, right?
Yeah, there's.
Why are there so many remotes?
Okay, thank you.
If anyone's looking for chairs, there are a couple more up here in the front and on the sides over here. So.
Yeah. So just hitting some of the highlights of the report. If you have any questions, just don't hesitate to ask. This first slide shows the per capita water use, or the water use per person during the year. We're staying pretty steady on that. We saw a little bit of a little bit more last year because it was such a dry summer, but we feel like we're doing pretty well on the per capita water use at 239 gallons per capita per day. As far as the water rights, the city acquired a little bit over 100 acre feet of water rights last year. The city continues to try to acquire water rights as they become available, and that's something that we feel like is very important to stay on top of that. The city used a total of 8,500 acre feet last year, which was a little bit more than in previous years. But again, because of such dry conditions last year, we saw a little bit of an increase in the water use. Another thing we look at with the water rights is the 40-year outlook. Population is projected to be 77,000 and a need of about 20,000 acre feet, which is about where the city's at right now. Looking at power costs, total was almost a little bit less than 700,000. That was a little bit more than the previous year, again, because of more usage. But as far as the cost per 1,000 gallons, that actually went down a little bit, which was good. The city's been using or trying to go to variable speed drives on our motors, which has helped reduce costs there. So we're trying to do all we can to save cost on the power. As far as the trends in the aquifer, we we are still seeing a drop in the water table. The drop last year was about 3.7 feet. The long-term average has been about 3 feet per year. We're hoping with the good snowpack this year that we won't see much of a decrease as we have in the past. As far as the recharge, that's been very successful recently. Based on what the Conservancy District measuring, there was about 448 acre feet recharged last year at the airport ponds. And so that's been really good to have those recharge projects going.
Jonathan,
yes.
in your future reports, will you include other recharge facilities on there also?
I can if we have measurement of those. Yeah, I can.
Thanks.
Just to add to that, I don't know, what do you think we put in Smith's pit this year, Paul? Do you think?
A couple full pits full at least.
It ran for, I'll bet, a month and a half, and we were putting about 8 CFS a day in. I'll bet it was,
For the people out there.
cubic feet per second. So Coal Creek right now is running about 200 CFS. So that give you an idea. So we're putting 25 CFS in Western Rock right now, and it's at about the level that it was at in 2017, almost to the highest point. And then the Phil's pit, I would guess we probably have put at least 500 to 1,000 acre feet in that this year. It was dropping. It was a huge. I mean, that pit right close to the channel, it was pretty big, and we had to shut off one night to do some maintenance. Dropped 3 feet in one night, so it was perking really good. So,
Okay.
And then Quichapaw's, they're doing about 8 CFS out there.
All good. So those are all really good projects. This graph just shows the trends. Obviously, we understand that the aquifer is dropping, and we're hoping with these recharge projects and hopefully with conservation and other things, we can try to stabilize this. There's just a summary of some of the projects were completed last year. We finished up the south tank. We did the Haslam Avenue waterline replacement. We put some chain link fences up around Quichpaw Wells 3 and 8. We finished the effluent reuse study, which we finished that right at the end of last year. And of course, we have some other projects that are either under construction or coming up this next year. Of course, we know about the Main Street waterline project. That's going pretty well so far. They're making good progress on that. And then we have quite a few other projects coming up. Just a quick update on our water situation. I actually looked this morning with the storm last night. We're actually at 230% of normal. So we're actually higher. So obviously this has been a tremendous winter as far as our snowpack. And so any of that we can get into the ground is a bonus. We still will have the watering restrictions in place for the coming summer months. We'll continue to encourage water conservation. And the Division of Water Rights is still working on the groundwater management plan, which we're keeping a close eye on. So that's all I have. If there's any other questions or comments.
No, the only comment is I read through the length of your report, and there's some very good data in there. So thank you for all your work and getting us informed up to date. Water is gold, so it's important that we treat it as such, and thank you for all your hard work on it.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Jonathan, I do have a question. So with the power bill almost 700,000, how much of that is demand costs? Is it, I mean, could we add another tank or something and run the pumps at night or so and fill a tank and try to save with demand charges at all and try to look at others besides the VFD?
Well, your demand charge really it's probably when you turn that pump on, you get that charge. And so
no matter when,
yeah. So there's really not much we can do about that.
Do they turn on and off quite a bit, or they run pretty much 24/7, a lot of them?
Well, Rob can correct me on this, but I think it's just that first time you started in the month. That's when you get that demand charge. It's not necessarily just, starting and stopping it, but but the big charge comes when you first start it in the beginning of the month. And so I'm not sure there's really much we can do about that other than not run the wells, but during the summer, we don't have much choice.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
but we'll do whatever we can to try to save as much as we can. So,
Are there any other questions, comments?
Thanks.
Thank you
Okay,
so
thank-
much.
thank you
We'll
very
see you
much.
later.
yep.
Right. Are there any other staff comments?
Ken Nelson, Leisure Services. Stay. I'd just like to share some information. In about 3 weeks, the Aquatic Center is going to drain the 3 pools, the leisure pool, the lap pool, and the outdoor pool. Mirtha, the lining company, is coming to do some replacement work under warranty for some of the lining has come up in the leisure pool and in the lap pool. And so while they're here, we're going to have them do all 3 pools at the same time. So the facility will be closed May 22nd through the 25th. So the hard thing about that is it's right before Memorial Day weekend. Yeah. So the other aspect, we would have liked those tears to happen in January, but they happen now. So that's the time slot that we're scheduling for those folks. Currently, that is our slowest couple days. We have all the school groups right now. So we've got probably 10 groups still to go till the end of school. So to make that and all the reservations and things happen, those 3 days we were able to have them come and not affect any of our school groups. And they said that they'd have it ready to go by that Saturday. So we're going to borrow Chief Phillips's equipment and fill it. They got a hydrant right outside the Aquatic Center. So we're going to hurry and fill them and heat them up over the weekend and be open for Memorial Day. So we're putting it out on social media and all our information aspects and our paper communication. So I just wanted you folks to know in case you need to address any folks with that May 22nd through 25th, we'll do those repairs and then hopefully be good to go. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
The lake will be open though, right? For use. Okay.
Okay. Are there any other staff comments? No. Okay. Then we will move on to our business agenda with our public comment section first. If you hear about a specific agenda item, I would ask that you wait until we get to that agenda item so that the comments fit in with what we're talking about. But if you're here for anything that isn't on the agenda, feel free to come up and address the council. Just please state your name for the record. Is there anyone? No? Okay. Then we'll move on to the public part with our consent agenda. Item number 1, approval of minutes dated April 3rd and 9th, 2019. Ratify bills dated April 10th, 12th, and 22nd, 2019. Approve the final plat for Shadow Ridge Townhome PUD.
Motion to approve the consent.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll go to the action agenda. Consider resolution for the municipal wastewater planning program. Hold on a sec on this. Eric's not here.
Is anyone going to speak to this?
Jeff, are you going to
gonna
speak
say-
to it?
I wasn't going to. I didn't even know it was on the agenda.
But
For the clarifier thing.
now you
Jeff
can.
Leonard, Senior Operator, Treatment Plant. Eric is out of town at a conference, so I don't know anything about this. Sorry.
He gave us
So
the full scoop when
Yeah.
Yeah, this is what Eric needs to file with the state every year,
The DMR.
DMR.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a very comprehensive review of all of our operations, where we fit into our total dissolved solids and what's coming out chemically on the clean end of the plant. It's a total review of all of that. From what Eric said last or 2 weeks ago, we're running really well and it's a clean bill of health.
Really well. Yeah. And we were Plant of the Year for the state. So,
Yes, congratulations.
thank you.
And Jeff was the
And
operator of the
You
year.
kept that
Yeah.
part
the
quiet.
state, so-
Yes.
Congratulations.
So
That's
congratulations.
wonderful.
Thank you.
You come to and you walk up and you didn't know that you were going to get that part, did you?
I didn't know.
Yeah. Well, all right. Are there any other questions? And if not,
Motion to approve.
Second,
okay, we'll do a roll call. We'll start with Councilwoman Hartley.
aye.
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 Thank you. Okay, review proposals to design a secondary clarifier at the wastewater treatment plant.
Trevor McDonald, City Engineering. From what I was aware, a few councilmen were missing last time.
Yep.
We wanted to allow you to have questions if you had any on this project.
Give them like a little brief overview.
Okay. The treatment plant is the treatment plant's a great facility, but with the growth of Cedar City, they have a current bottleneck at the secondary clarifier stage. So a little elementary version of a treatment plant. We have a sewage that comes in, gets treated, filtered out, goes to the digester, comes in, gets filtered out again and clarified. And that's where we're getting a bottleneck, where we want to increase capacity in the plant and have a little higher level of safety, a safety factor of the plant to operate. This will allow them to also maintain a clarifier. Currently, they can't really shut down one clarifier and clean it up, maintain it, put a new, like a liner at the aquatic center. These need maintenance and sometimes can leak, and having an additional clarifier will help with that. So we put out a request for proposals recently in designing a secondary clarifier, and we got two well-qualified candidates that offered proposals. One was Carollo, the other was Stantec. They both have been very involved in our treatment plant. So we were pleased to see them propose a solution and offer design services. An evaluation committee was pulled together. We met and graded these evaluations. I think I submitted our score breakdown on those evaluations for you. And we feel that Stantec will offer a better value to the city, a better service to the city, and giving us a design, and also potentially help with other issues that are the little pet peeves at the plant currently. We were very impressed with their level of expertise in our specific process at the plant. The design team that they proposed work on this project is very knowledgeable in the nitrate mitigation kits that we have, the biological processes that are going on at the plant, and we have some struvite issues. Struvite is a crystallization that occurs in the later stages in the plant that clogs up the pipes, and they seem to be spot on with some of the issues we're dealing with. A lot of the issues that we're dealing with there, we were really impressed with how astute they were and what the plant is encountering on a daily basis. So we recommend that Stantec be awarded the contract for the design services on the secondary clarifier.
Move to approve.
Can I ask a quick question? Is there, in some of the information, when I went to the meeting last week with the water treatment, they said it wasn't eligible to be paid any of it out of impact fees. Is this to support growth, or is it to support just to finish building out the facility? I didn't understand why we couldn't use impact fees for that.
It's not going to contribute to any increase in capacity to the plant.
Okay.
It's just going to
All right. That's kind of what I
improve the
thought.
process.
Okay, thanks.
And it also provides sort of a backup, if you will, if we had issues at that stage. Is that also part of the?
From what I understand, yes. The
You can come up
It's
and
treatment
talk to
plant
us.
Can I
staff.
help you for a second?
Yeah.
Jeff Leonard again, senior operator. Yes, at this point right now, if we lost one of the final clarifiers, we would probably go out of compliance with the state because it would be overloaded with the amount of water we have going through. And those clarifiers are 24 years old.
We don't want to tell people not to flush their
We
toilets.
don't want to tell them that ever.
All right, thanks.
Or they won't.
I'll second that motion.
So,
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks, Trevor.
And item number 6, consider an ordinance amending chapter 32-8 regarding fencing requirements for PUD developments.
Don's gonna discuss this. He's the one that's been following it.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council, Don Boudreau, City Engineering. So this ordinance is pretty straightforward. Currently with PUDs, it requires a perimeter fence around the entire development. So that includes the front yard and the front setback. In some cases where the PUD development looks traditional, it fronts a dedicated right of way. You have traditional garage, traditional driveways. We think it would be best if you eliminate that 6-foot fence. So you get a traditional looking front yard. It also looks kind of awkward when you have pieces of fencing between different driveways. So that's the gist of it. And that would apply to your condominium, attached multifamily type developments. So if you have
And
any
this
questions.
is where they're facing a dedicated street. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. So
Seems
if you have
pretty straightforward.
any
Motion
questions.
to approve?
Second.
All right, we'll start with Councilman Adams.
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Move to adjourn this action meeting and move into our work meeting for tonight.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
You're in charge, honey. You're in charge.
If you get things switched over, let me know. Are we good? Okay. We will now move into our work meeting for tonight, May 1st, 2019, with our business agenda, the public portion first. Item number 1, consider waiving or reducing a water bill for the Southwest Wildlife Foundation.
Hi, let me share some information. My name is Susan Tyner with the Southwest Wildlife Foundation, and we're not asking to waive our regular water bill. We're very happy to pay it, and the city has been wonderful at helping us to get that restroom put up along the walking path along Cold Creek up at the Cedar Canyon Nature Park. We just kind of ran into an issue in March, or the beginning of March. We got a water bill for way over what we usually spend. We usually do, according to the standard, it says, I guess, what was that? Would the 2 stand for 2,000 gallons, or is it more than that? I don't understand how to read it, but normally we go through very little water usage, and it's not a problem to pay it. When we got our March bill, we had quite a large bill, and I called the city right away to see what was going on. And they said, well, either they misread the meter or you have a leak. And I says, can we get somebody back up there to look at it to see if we have a leak, we need to fix things. So they were able to get him back up there on March 11th, and they confirmed we had a leak, had the water shut off until we were able to repair it. And that first bill that alerted us, you know, the normal bill is $22.50 a month. This one was $260.50. We did pay the bill. We fixed it, the water. We turned the water back on. And I thought, well, thank goodness, it could have been worse. This is what I found out. And that's why I passed out the information, because it's really confusing. The bill that we received for $260 in March it's considered the billing cycle of February 1st through February 28th, but they actually read the meters from January 1st to February 1st. So that first bill, the overage, the $260 was for usage during the month of January. We didn't know anything about it until March. And we got it fixed. I got the next bill in April and about had a heart attack because it was an $1,800 bill. They said we used almost 2 million gallons of water. So I was just saying, well, I had them run back up to turn the water off. I thought we didn't fix it right. And I met the the water guy up there, and he says, no, it's fixed. It's not leaking. It looks like it's right, but they bill quite a bit. They read the meter, but then the billing it's kind of staged off quite a way. So we're like 2 months out. So we had a water leak for 2 months, and there's no visible sign of it. So I'm sure it is helping to fill the aquifers. But what I was asking, and I appreciate the city's got a lot of their own expenses too, is we're more than happy to pay our regular bills. And we paid the 256 overage, and until I saw how much it was, I looked at the bill for March, which is going to be mailed out this week for May. And we had our water turned off March 11th. The $1,800 bill, the water meter was read on March 4th. So just that 1 week between March 4th and March 11th, before we even knew we had a leak and it was turned off, we've got almost $600 more in a water bill overage. So I know it's unusual request, but I thought, seeing as the restroom facility is for the community, we don't mind maintaining the building and the water, and we do have a cleaning service up there that takes care of things for us. We pay monthly, and we'll have a lot more projects going on. But I thought maybe you would consider waiving some or all of that overage.
Susan, what was the cause of the water leak?
Right next to where it hooks in, there's a valve. It's a copper valve, and I don't know if the water guy's here that can help me, but right where we hook into the city water, they require us to have a certain type of a copper valve, and the valve failed. So it was after the water meter, but just right after. And so that valve was replaced.
So I'm a little confused. Are we billing 3 months in advance on our water
No,
meters?
behind.
No, behind.
We're that far behind.
Oh my
So that's
gosh.
why she didn't know.
So, and like I says, we had no clue because we couldn't see where the water's going.
You got some right here. You got the expert right here.
Robbie Mitchell, Cedar Water Department. So what we do is we bill behind. So they're reading right now for the usage of the last month. So we're a month behind in the reading. And then when they send them out and you get them, you're actually paying for water you used 2 months ago. So we read it a month after you use it, but by the time it gets cycled through and you get the bill, you're 2 months paying for water you used too much behind. One other thing I'd like to bring up while we're here is when we turned that off and they repaired it, they turned that water back on themselves. So, one, that's not permitted. And if talking to my guys, they said that there was still another leak. So if we would have turned that on, we would have seen that there was still water going through that meter, which probably would have prevented that 1,800,000 gallons going through it. So that's just another thing to consider on that.
I know we've had some requests in the past to waive water bill fees, particularly when there's a leak on the consumer side of the meter. My recollection is we've never done that.
And the reason this is before you is because staff cannot do this.
These are always hard ones.
They are.
They're
And I understand for the average person, business or anything like that, it just happens. And I understand the city's busy and it takes them a while to enter all of the data to get the bills out. So I guess that's why they're 2 months behind.
Well, the history of this restroom, you guys clean it and maintain
We clean it. Yeah, we pay $260 a month in cleaning fees.
Got a
We
lot of
pay
donations to
we
build
pay
it.
we have, yeah. And the city helped, was a partner to help us with RAP tax money to help us with building the restrooms.
The reason it's open for public use is that was the contract they signed when we gave them RAP tax money. To help
Right.
build.
Right.
And it's used. I've seen it
Yes.
used.
Yes. So it's
And also the connection outside of the city limits. Wasn't that a?
We're in the
special-
city limits.
Oh, you are in the city? Oh, okay.
So in fact, the 2 weeks it was shut down until we could get it repaired. Yeah, people weren't happy that there wasn't a restroom there. So it's quite popular along the trail.
Yeah, it is.
So
I know a lot of people appreciate that restroom up there
Oh, yeah.
a great deal. And I I don't know. I mean, typically on these kind of things, I vote against them just so we don't set a precedent and go down a slippery slope.
I understand.
I kind of wonder in this circumstance where it's really used by the public and you're providing great service, if we can't figure out a way to work with them some way. I don't know.
So what is the total outstanding bill? $2,428. Is that correct? Am I reading that correct?
The bill that we received in April, that we haven't paid it yet. I hate to be late because we usually pay it really promptly, but it was $1,832.50. And then the current bill hasn't come out yet. I just went into the office this morning and they've just tabulated it. So it's in the system. The bills will be mailed out this week. And we will be getting a bill for $596.13. So at the bottom, I figured the 3-month water bill, not counting the storm drain bill. And then took off the average 3 months bill. And so basically, because of the leak, it's costing $2,530. And like he says, when we had the bill for $260, I thought, thank goodness it wasn't worse. But apparently it was, because I had no idea how the billing cycles were for previous. So I just figured if I don't ask, the answer is no, it won't hurt to ask.
Sure.
And so.
Well, I'm going to make a proposal here and then people can respond to it. I think given the fact that what the service you do provide and the fact that we were behind, that then you went around evidently and turned it back on, I'm going to propose that.
Well, no matter what, this is an action meeting
Oh, yeah.
or a
you're
work
right.
meeting.
You're
So
right.
where you're
Never
not going
mind.
to take any action on
I
this.
don't have to do anything tonight.
No, you're just discussing
I'll
this
save that
tonight.
for a week. I'll save that thought for a week.
You have time to think about it then.
Yeah. So,
And digest
so
it.
next
It was good.
week,
It was really good.
Okay, well, thank you for
they'll
listening.
so next week we'll have this on the
We'll be back to find out.
Yeah, I'll come back next week to find out. Would you?
we'll have this on the action agenda for next week.
Very good.
All right. Item number 2, consider approving the final plat for the South Mountain Estates Phase 1.
Joel Hanson. So we're coming back for final plat approval on 9 lots that we want to do. This is on South Mountain Drive, west of Eagle Ridge and west of the canyons that's going in now. It's on the north side of South Mountain Drive. This development will start, is there a pointer? If you look at the vicinity map, you can see this is South Mountain Drive here. This is the existing Eagle Ridge. This is the canyons.
Whoa. Whoa. Just moved your whole subdivision, Joel.
Yeah. Don't move it that far.
Yep.
Okay, so where we're at here is the canyons is going in here. This piece right here, you can see the fence line right there. This piece that I'm talking about comes here and comes over and is adjacent to the canyons. We're going to start over here in this corner because our drainage has to run to the west for sewer and storm drain. So we're going to actually extend the utilities 1,100 feet from where their existing end is down South Mountain Drive, and then we'll start up here in this corner, and then we'll work back to the east to fill in that 39-acre parcel with the estates at South Mountain subdivision.
So this is come forward to me. All the plat checking fees, bondings in place, agreements have been signed. Everything's good to go on my side.
What are the size of these lots?
These lots will be, the smallest lot we have is a half acre. They'll be from a half acre to over an acre. I've got 41 lots on about 40 acres for that parcel. This is a project that we rezoned into the RE zone. So I think it's one of the first ones we're going to build in Cedar City with the RE zone. Our CC&Rs and everything are leaning towards leaving natural scape, not half acre worth of grass, soccer fields in everybody's yard, but to have some natural trees and leave some of the natural scape. I hope to eventually build a house on this project myself, and I hate doing yard work. So my objective is to maybe put a flower garden or two, and then leave the sagebrush and the cedar trees. So I don't have to rake leaves and water it. Water usage, again, is something that we're going to push for this neighborhood. So we can conserve water even though we have a little more space in between lots.
No legal reason not to proceed, so.
Correct.
Right.
Right. Are you good with that going on the consent?
Yeah.
There's 10.
Thank you. I didn't have it in my packet.
I know. Okay.
So we'll be on the consent.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
So far, it's looking like you're the only thing on the consent for next week.
Well, that's
so.
okay. I don't mind.
All right. Item number 3, public hearing to consider a general land use amendment from industrial and manufacturing to medium density residential for property located at 2300 North, 600 West.
So this is on Northfield Road, but it's underneath.
Still
the
say your name, Joe.
Oh, sorry. Joe Burgess.
Thanks.
It's under the freeway, and it's actually off Northfield Road to the west, maybe a quarter of a mile. It's on the east side of Sun Rock's gravel pits. It's quite a ways east of that. Sun Rock owns property to the south. Windmill Plaza owns property to the east. And not sure any other questions you might have.
Comments, questions? Anything
Plans
from
for
the
that?
council?
Excuse me?
Plans for developing that?
Yes, we're ready to go through the process as soon as we get the zone change done.
You're looking for twin homes? What are you looking at, Joe, out there?
Both single-family dwellings and twin homes. This property is not my property. This property is Northfield Properties 2. Ken Knutsen's one of the principals there. Our property is to the east of that, which borders Northfield Road.
Correct.
The problem we have is that we don't have a sewer to our property, so we've got to go through Ken's property to get down to the city sewer line, which is about 1,200 feet to the west of our property there. And so in order to get that sewer in there, we're going to trade him some of that property so that sewer borders is on some of our property.
Gotcha.
We're going to develop some of the lots for him. There'll be around 50 lots between our lots and his lots. I think we'll have about 40 and he'll have about 12 lots or so. And by doing that and by trading that, then coming off, is it 2400 North? 2400 North, then his property will be a lot deeper by doing that. And so that's the reason that he wants to trade us that property so that he can have property that's deeper off there to has more options to do things with it.
Is this something you're looking to trying to develop right away?
Yes. We got everything laid out and we're just ready to submit it to the city. And as soon as we get this zone change, we will submit it.
Okay.
We've been working on it for 3 or 4 months.
Are there any additional comments or questions from the council? Okay, then we will open the public hearing. If there's anyone that would like to address the council on this, now is your opportunity. Okay. Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing and move this on to the action agenda. Okay, item number 4, public hearing to consider a zone change from general commercial to dwelling 2-unit R2-2 for property located 2300 North, 600 West. Yeah, it's the same one. You can come back. For everybody else, do you want to just come and kind of explain or Tyler can, what the whole reason is for this?
Yeah, so the general land use plan had this property as industrial manufacturing. And so in order to be able to rezone that, to be able to build these twin lot homes, we need to change the general plan. And to accompany that, we also need to change the zone. So this is just the second part of the process, changing the zone from general commercial to allow residential use.
Thank you. Council have any questions?
No.
No? Okay, then we will open the public hearing if there's anyone that would like to address this zone change. Yes. Can you come up to the microphone though so we can hear you and have it recorded? And state your name again.
Yeah, my name's Patrick Sawyer. I got a question. Earlier, I heard them talk about having a problem with water, having a problem with sewer, but you guys are turning us all over to residential. How's that going to affect the problems we already have?
Agriculture uses more water than residential's use.
So this is agriculture use now?
No.
I thought you said it was commercial.
Well, it's zoned that way. It is zoned that way right now.
And what's the present use of it?
Well,
I think it's just vacant land.
Right. So it's not agriculture.
Well,
okay. Something for you guys to consider. You keep approving all this low density, high density housing without the infrastructure to handle it. We're all going to be in problem, have issues. Something to think about.
Thank you. All right. Are there any other public comments? No? Okay, then we will close the public hearing and move this to the action agenda. Okay. Item number 5, public hearing to consider general land use amendment from medium density residential to high density residential property located at 1022 South, 860 West.
Ron Larson, I'm with Insight Engineering and representing the owners. This came before the Planning Commission and there was a lot of discussion, and then the Planning Commission recommended not approving it, but the owners wanted to bring it forward to the City Council to see if they can still get it approved. So the first part of this is this property is located, if you're familiar with, there's a hotel right here, and then the brand new Tag and Go car wash is on this parcel. And then there's 2 more commercial highway service parcels here. So this is located behind those highway service parcels, behind the car wash. Basically, the car wash is on this piece right here. Then there's 2 parcels. Then this is behind it. This property is currently master planned as medium density. The properties along this, behind the hotel and behind these other areas, were also master planned as medium density, but they've been developed as R3 because they were already R3. We're proposing, and then the property to the north here is R3. So what we're proposing is to continue the R3 that is a buffer between the commercial and the residential and continue that through this parcel also. What we need to do is, first of all, would change it to the higher density on the general plan, and then the other item is to change the zone. A couple of things that were brought up in the Planning Commission, there was talk about drainage issues. Those drainage issues concern the hotel here, just drains straight through and out the back. And I guess there's been flooding over the years to these homes down in here. The current project that is being built right here now is required to take that water, and then there's a drainage easement along this property that takes the water down to the street here and dumps it into the street. So that originally there was nothing there. It was just draining across it. So that is actually being taken care of with this development and would also be carried through on any development on this property.
Well, this development that's going in is putting in a detention pond, so that they're controlling their flows
Right,
out.
but they're also now sending the water this way, which it wasn't doing before.
Yeah, but it's a lot smaller stream than's ever been going there.
Yeah. And the other thing that we've done as part of this, developing the front of this, there was 2 major drainages that carried water from this side of Main Street and just dumped it out onto this property. Part of the development of the front of this was they installed cleanouts and drainage pipes to carry that water over to 860. So that water actually has been diverted around it. So that lessens some of the effect on this property also.
Where does it drain into 860 there, Ron? I mean,
It
it just goes
drains-
right
it-
into the.
It just goes into the curb. The way that the slope going down, the pipe just daylights out into the curb. And when we did this, there's a storm drain down the street here down near the high school. And what we determined was that the road would handle all that water just in the curb. So that's what it does.
And it has been able to do that?
Yeah.
What's the plan for the development?
Well, what they'd like to do, it's not a very easy, it's not a piece that you could easily go in and just split off some lots because it only has about 200 feet of frontage right here. And the property goes clear back over to here. So this part of the property would not, it just is really difficult to do any kind of a typical subdivision. You know, if it's R2, you can go down to 70-foot frontage. So you could get maybe 3 lots across there, but this back part you can't get to it. There's no road into it. It's not wide enough to do like a cul-de-sac. Then there's not enough room to do a cul-de-sac and lots. So the easiest and best use is high density, is apartments or townhomes or something. It's approximately 4 acres. So it's large enough it could be a PUD, but they don't have any plans right now. They just want to get the zoning in place. They'll probably sell it, I would imagine.
Well, I think the difficulty comes, at least in my mind, and I don't know what public will comment on here, but having no idea what the plans are, it's very difficult for us to sort of assume that, there's a big difference between having a single family, a single twin home or something there as opposed to a 3-story apartment complex going in there. And there's a big difference between those two. So that's why I asked what the plans were.
I'm sure it'll be some type of multi-family housing, whether it's apartments or townhomes or something, because it just doesn't lend itself to doing single family units, even twin homes. So that's why I say it definitely will be either apartments or condominiums or something like that.
Also, Kit, so back to the hotel for just a minute. Since this whole area is now being developed, and has the hotel drainage issue been taken care of, or will that continue to be a problem for the people down the road?
Well, the motel actually got a drainage easement when they came in. This property was Lunt property, and Lunt's gave them a drainage easement to drain where they're draining.
The drainage easement goes across from this corner, goes across the back of the property to the street. And the drainage easement was actually always there, but there was never a ditch. There was never anything. It just flowed to the back. My understanding is the group that's building here is detaining their water on site, and their outlet, which would also be the outlet for the water from the hotel, will be down that easement and daylight into the street. So I haven't gone and looked at it, but my understanding is that the drainage from the hotel will at least be directed where it's supposed to go out to the street, whereas before it was just running across the ground.
Yeah. Thank you.
Are there any other questions from the council at this time? I'll let you ask more questions later. Okay. Then we will open the public hearing on this. Please state your name if you would like to speak, and keep your comments brief, and please don't repeat what somebody else has said. And as a total side note, before I open this, there should be a roll going around, and there's a sign and roll outside. We have to have that for the minutes. If you have not signed one of those, please do before you leave, because I know the next couple items, people tend to leave after we get through them. So please sign one of the 2 rolls that are going, either the one that's going around or the one outside, and don't accidentally take the one that's going around please make sure it stays in this room so that we can have it after the meeting. And with that, public hearing's open and
Thank you. Daryl Owen. I just wanted to point out in the meeting notes, there were, for the Planning Commission, there were about 7 people that showed up to discuss exactly this. And all of them had drainage concerns, which we've already mentioned today, as well as other concerns. And the point here is that I think it's pretty unfair for the developer to come back here and say, we want to rezone this regardless, without these people being present for this hearing and actually hear what's going on. So I think that's wrong.
can I just tell you one thing? So all the planning commission minutes, all of the council has had those and has had a chance to review those comments and concerns as well.
Okay.
Prior to this meeting.
Okay.
So just know that those things have not gone so this group is not aware of them. They're well aware of the conversation that was had.
So what I would recommend to this council is to notify those people, those residents that were here, and get them back in here to actually discuss the problems that they're having before you make any sort of decision. Thank you.
And because there's a big group here tonight as well, I want to give you a kind of, this is also not part of the public hearing, but it's information as far as how the process works. So nothing will be voted on tonight by the city council. As far as any of the items in the meeting we're currently in, all of them will be voted on next week. So no action will take place on any of these items that we're having a public hearing on or any of that. All of those votes will take place next week. So I know that's always a comment, a concern, a worry, but no action will take place tonight. So, okay. Is there anyone else?
One comment, Mayor. It was made fairly clear in the Planning Commission meeting when this was looked at that people are expected to follow this proposal through the process as it moves through City Council. So they were notified that they needed to be here if they wanted to be here.
Are there, I just don't want to miss anyone if there is anyone. Anyone else? If not, I don't see anyone. We will close the public hearing on this and move it on to the action agenda. And just so you know, the action agenda means that we have the consent agenda, which we go through, they vote on as a whole. Action agenda is they vote on each item individually at our next meeting as well. Okay, item number 6, public hearing to consider a zone change from residential 1R1 to dwelling multiple unit R-3-M for property located at 1022 South, 860 West.
So this is Ron Larson again. This is the actual zone change of the property would be to R3 because it currently is R1.
All right. Questions, comments?
No new questions.
Okay. And this is the same way we did the last one. Okay, so we'll open the public hearing.
Lisa Natwick. Just out of curiosity, what is entailed in the R3M zoning as far as size of building, height of building, number of people that can live in the building?
Pretty much, what does the ordinance allow?
What does the ordinance allow? Yeah.
Tyler?
So R3M is our high density. So it's going to allow apartments and townhomes. If you'd like, I could sit down with you tomorrow and go through the ordinance with you and give you the exact specs on buildings. It just kind of, I mean, there are limits.
Okay. Well, I guess that's my big concern is what are the limits within this? And I think I'm going to learn a lot more about this stuff than I ever really wanted to know, but I'll be by. Thank you.
There anyone else? Okay, then
Can I ask a
Yeah, yeah.
question? Kit, one of the residents had mentioned an issue about water pressure. Is there an issue with water pressure up in that area?
We haven't heard any complaints about it. We don't believe there is. We can look at our water system model and see, but we haven't really heard any complaints about that.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
That was
Is there anyone else for the public hearing?
Read that comment.
No? Okay, then we will close the public hearing and move this on to the action agenda. Item number 7, public hearing to consider residential development overlay RDO for Sitla property west of Providence Center.
Mayor and City Council and staff, I'm Brent Drew with Levitt Land and Investment. And Kit, do we have, I guess that's the drawing of the overall proposal, but do we have the PDFs that?
Oh, yes. Hold on, let me grab that.
She said earlier she had downloaded it on to your shared drive. But if not,
Is it this one? PowerPoint right there. Drive here, isn't it?
Do you have a USB?
Is that a backup?
that is the backup. And I have one more in the other pocket.
You're a good scout. Be prepared.
Way to be efficient.
All righty, there we go.
PDFs.
Yeah, not a whole lot has changed, but that's really good. Anyway, what we're here to do is talk again about our long-term development and why we're requesting the RDO zone. Probably one thing to start at the beginning is the 1,450 acres of Sitla property. When the state was formed, school trust lands was given different sections, section 32, a couple other sections in each area. And all those lands from the very beginning was so they could sell, lease, develop the property in order to make money for the schools. This property has always been under the ownership of Sitla. Their intention was to use it at the right time. They've been trying to develop it for over 20 years that we know about. So this is the original plan, the initial project 20 years ago. The property was designed to have higher density. There was a golf course included, and I say I don't have it's hard to do two things at one time here. But you'll see down in this area, and then all the way through it, that was a golf course set there. They had normal subdivisions with extensive lawn areas, and there was less public space than what we're going to be showing you that we're going to be doing there. But this was brought in, I think it was actually brought into the city and wasn't approved at the time, or we don't know, but they brought this map into the city and had been discussing doing this. They've gone through several things since then, but now they've gone through, and when the lady behind me said, what have we added? We have added one thing right there at the top because of questions from the Planning Commission. But these are those new development objectives for this property. Now, more than 70% of the subcontractors and tradesmen on this project are local. There'll be a rural feeling development with significant open space. It respects and protects the terrain and vegetation. More than 500 acres of open space, and we'll go over that in a little bit more detail. Defined building areas for each lot. Buildings will not be allowed on peaks or ridges. Room for community amenities like schools, churches, neighborhood, commercial, etc. CC&Rs to maintain a cohesively built environment. Water-wise, limited areas of non-native landscaping. Development will be less than the allowable density, and I think that's an important thing. What we're doing with this RDO is we're coming in and saying we can build over 4,000 units on that property as it stands today. Under what we're bringing forward, we're asking to do 3,400 acres in this, but probably only going to be doing 2,000 to 2,500 units in this project. And so, and you'll see that when we show the slopes and the terrain of this area. There'll be public trails throughout the project. Areas bordering the existing subdivision will reflect those of the community. And then 25 to 30 years of development. So we're talking right now 2045 to 2050 in order to see this into full development. I'm going to now turn the time over to Ron to go over a little bit more, but there you can see the allowable units right now is 4,415 units, or 3.2 per acre. Under this RDO request, we're saying we'll only be doing 3,508 units, or 2.4 per acre. So we're actually, instead of asking for more density, we're actually asking you for less. Oh, here, I'll do that.
Okay, you do that.
I'll do that.
Okay, these green areas that are shown here are areas that are sloped greater than 25% slope and have been basically designated right off the bat that they will be open space and not be developed. In addition to that, there's about 320 acres of that. In addition to that, we believe there will be another almost 200 acres of areas that just can't be gotten to or can't be built on. There's some areas on some of these inside these that just can't get to them to develop them correctly. So the pods that are shown here are somewhat representative of the way that it'll be developed. Pod number 1 is up here by the middle school and Cove Drive. Pod number 2 is down at the bottom here above the Eagle Ridge subdivision. But the development will be based on need, based on the market. Obviously, if there's not a market for homes, there's not going to be development done. So the speed of which it develops will depend on the market. The partnership that Development Team LC, which is the partnership that's partnered with SITLA, the deal that they have with SITLA is that that we don't have to do a certain number of lots every year. We can, if there's a lag, if there's a bad time, then we just sit on it and wait, and nobody's penalized for it. And that's what kind of makes this a little bit better deal than what the SITLA has asked for in the past. So there's no guarantee there's no goals of this many lots per year. The 25 to 30 years is based on what we think might happen. So this map here, this colored map, kind of shows the different, each pod is designated with a specific zoning that meets Cedar City ordinance. And these represent what would be built in those areas. For instance, this kind of yellowish color here and up here is basically R1, which would be quarter-acre lots that would be built per the Cedar City ordinance, public roads, the whole thing, just exactly like it would be if it was anywhere else in the city. These green areas here, which is the majority of it, are designated to be residential estate zones, so they'll follow the residential estate ordinance as far as development goes. These bluish colored areas here are more of a medium density. What they'd like to do is option, R2, some smaller homes and maybe some twin homes and things. The red ones here are commercial. We've designated some areas that we feel like along these major roads that the roads that are shown on here are the master plan roads according to the city's master plan. We have determined that along those roads would be the best spot there and here and not in here that any commercial would be done. So that's been designated on the map as how many acres they can develop. And then this purple area right here is kind of, they're designated, it's an RE zone, but it will be more of a private neighborhood, kind of a PUD type gated community kind of thing. So, but it'll still be the RE zone, the RE things. Okay. This map shows the property as it's called a slope analysis map. Basically what it's showing is how steep the property is on the whole property. The reddish color here is the flattest slopes, and this purple and blue is the steepest slopes. All of these areas that are purple and blue right there are the areas that are over 25%, which we've designated that there will be open space and they will not be developed. Then as you go between the blue to the red, then that's the slope changes in there. So you can see there's a lot of property that is not even buildable on this acreage. The plan for the residential estate zone areas is to do a cluster type homes. So that's where you would cluster, you'd have the homes there. The density of those homes might be 1 per acre, but they'll be clustered together so that they'll have a little bit smaller lots, and then the rest of it would be open space added to the other open space that's included. We talked a little bit about the landscaping. What they're going to do is, in the CCNRs, it will designate that you have a certain area that you can build the house, first of all, to keep people from building up at the very back of their lot or something. We want to keep it right in the middle. And that they'll be limited to non-native landscaping immediately around their house. The rest of it will have to be left as natural vegetation. The trails that are called out, there's master plan trails and then there's community trails. The master plan trails follow the city's master plan, and there's 21,000, about 4 miles of those master plan trails that go across this property. Community trails would tie the other parts of the community, the other open space areas to those so that you could go between all of these different areas. And total of about, the 44 acres is basically, if you take the area of the trail, that's about how much would be created and built as trails. This is an overall aerial view looking to the south. You can see Cross Hollow Road right down through the bottom here. The western road, master plan road, comes up through this valley, and then there's a water tank that's up on top. In summary, there's 1,450 acres, 25 to 30 years. There's designated the office commercial area, those red areas that we looked at. There's designated to be 78 acres of that, 44 acres of public parks and trails. And then there's also some other amenities that they'll probably build a clubhouse and some other parks and things that'll be within it. Now, you'll see that on the plan. The total allowed units based on the ordinance is 4,400. We've designated 3,500, but as Brent said, we don't, that's kind of to give you a little bit of flexibility in some of the areas, because you don't know how much you'll be able to do in each area. We're figuring more around the 2,500 probably total units. Rural feeling, defined building lots.
And then since the last thing, we added this chart, and Brent Drew again with Leather Land and Investment.
Thanks.
Mayor.
I was going to call you out on that.
And so just so people would, there's questions on where would some of the money come for this and that. On the roads, water and sewer lines and other infrastructure, there's 187,500 linear feet of that we know of so far in our design. And that would be the $84,371 there. And that would be us paying for that. So that's just when they say, does the city have the money, that's what we will be putting forward. The next thing is we put the impact fees and what they go to, and each unit up there will have $8,343. This is just, again, estimates. I want to be sure they're based on 2,000 housing units there by 2045. And so there'll be over $16,687 there in impact fees too, to cover the water acquisition, water, transportation, sewer, police, parks and rec, and those various things there. And so you'll see just a minimum right there investment, from our side of $101 million over the life of this project. So
Can I just get a clarification on the community trails? Is that, when you're talking community, that's the community of this project, connecting your bike paths and your sidewalks and your open spaces? It's not anything other than that within this project, correct?
Right. And the plan is, and our discussions have been that all of the open space will be deeded to the city. So the city will be the owner and the overseer of it all. And then that will include the trails. They'll all be public trails, public property.
For all citizens to use.
For everybody to use. Yeah, there'll be a few private things like they're like talking about maybe doing a clubhouse. And
Sure.
Those will be for the HOA, for those that buy in the area. But these other things would all be public.
What
The
about
difference between the master plan and the community ones really is size. The master plan ones are bigger. They're usually paved, big trails, and the community ones would be smaller trails. That's really the difference.
Okay.
What about the parks?
There's.
Are you planning on doing those within your development and maintaining those?
Well,
or is that something you're going to want to?
Well, there's been discussion both ways. What the owners want to do is they want to build this one big park along with these amenities here, about 3.5 acre park, and that would be maintained by the HOA, but it would be a community park. We talked about whether the city would want to take it over. That hasn't been, it would come to fruition.
So are the CCNRs going to cover the entire development as a whole? This whole
it will, but there will
be
be
just certain areas.
There will
like
be
where you'll-
different parts for different areas. Like the residential estate areas will have a little bit different CCNRs than the R1 areas, but it'll all be covered under the CCNRs.
So as far as collecting amounts to help with maintenance and that kind of thing could vary.
Yeah.
Within, depending on which pod and which.
Right.
Okay. That was where my question was headed.
Now, don't go to this one. This one you can kind of see, and it's a little hard, but there's a blue line here, these dashed lines. Those blue ones are the master planned trails. There's one main one that goes right through the middle of the property. There's another one that comes around the base of the hill and goes to the middle school. There's one that comes up and follows the cattle trail here. Those are the community, or not, they're the master plan trails. Then the other lines, these brownish colored dash lines would be the community trails that would connect the open space together and that kind of thing. What was I going to say? Mine just went blank.
Yes.
Well, while you're thinking, I have a question on the designation of the pods. Your pod 1, your pod 2, your pod 3. What is the thinking behind the way you propose to develop it?
Well, it's partly to do with where infrastructure is and how you're going to bring infrastructure in. The reason this is pod 1 up here is that there's a lot of the infrastructure already there. There's sewer there, there's water there, there's power, gas. There's nothing out here in the middle, absolutely nothing.
Right.
So it'll develop kind of from the outside into the middle, and that's kind of, so the bottom, again, there's sewer and water stubbed right here. So this makes sense that this would be an area that you develop in the beginning down there at the bottom. At a point, according to the city ordinance, once you get to 80 units, you have to have a second access. This will be connected via this road right here, which would tie in here by Home Depot, which then lends itself to, well, then this is probably the next area to start to develop. So that's kind of was the thinking.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
And by the ordinance, the concept of the RDO was you do development pods, and each pod can be a different city zone, like an RE zone or an R1 zone or an R2 zone. So that pretty much defines an area of a city zone on those pods.
Right, and one of the reasons they're not like defined with bearings and distances and everything is that there's some flexibility there, but in the long run, the number of units is fixed. So in pod number 6, if it grows and it moves the line over, it still only can get that many units. So that's again one of the reasons why we kind of left that number a little bit higher, just because we don't know where lines are going to go. But that area will be zoned that and will be developed that according to that.
And do I understand Sitla is comfortable with sitting on various acreages until such time it is ready to be developed, whether it's 10, 15, or 20 years?
Yeah, but the biggest problem they've had in trying to develop this piece is that they always wanted to sell it to somebody and let them develop it. Well,
Right.
nobody wants to take down 1,500 acres and then sit on it,
Right.
So this is a kind of a new thing for them, and it's something that they've worked a long time to get the partnership set up correctly, but basically that's it. If next year everything died and there was no development, it would just sit there and not, nobody would be penalized for it or that kind of a thing.
Are there other examples of this in the state, Brent?
I don't think there is. I think this is the first one they've done this way.
Okay.
So what water comes into the city and then how will that come in just as each one of those pods are developed?
Yeah.
So what year of water rights and whatnot
Well,
are we looking at?
See, we pay our water acquisition fees to the city, and then what do you do with, what do they do with it?
Okay, so you're just paying it
They'll just
into the impact fee then? Okay,
We'll go out and buy more water.
okay.
Yeah, Sitla doesn't have water rights. There's no
Okay.
water developed there. There's no
Okay.
water rights.
It's about the only thing they don't have.
Yeah.
What about the road situation, dedicated roads, the roads you're showing plus future roads? I'm wondering how set are those roads? What kind of flexibility are there? What I'm getting to, Brandon, we discussed this a little bit earlier today, is I want to be very sensitive to our good neighbors at Eagle Ridge and how this might impact them positively or negatively, and where the traffic flow comes from and how it moves.
I'll let Ron kind of go in a little bit, the more factual.
Well, right now we're showing a road that comes in right here and ties through and actually goes all the way through. And the reason that's being shown
And that ties in where? Where does it exactly?
well, it ties in at the Canyons subdivision.
Okay, got it.
All the way over to Cross Hollow.
Thank you.
That road is a master plan city road, so we're required to show that.
Mhm.
That's not necessarily the exact location. It can move, it can adjust. So there's that road, and then there's the one that comes up past Home Depot, past the cemetery parcel there. Those are the only two that really are defined as they need to be in this area. Everything else would be done based on design, based on traffic, based on, what works best, based on drainage, all those kind of things. But other than in this, the one area we talked about being maybe a private subdivision, everything will be public roads, built to public standards, slope, all those kind of things.
In an RDO on the roads, is it the city's responsibility then for maintenance and snow removal and all that?
Yeah, they'll all be built city standards and be city streets.
Okay.
For the public roads, if they do private roads, we're not going to.
Sure. No, I understand.
Yeah, the private roads wouldn't be, but the public ones, once it's built, then the city would be responsible for it. Once it's built and accepted by the city, just like any subdivision. Once this process is done, the next step would be to change the zone to the zone that matches it, and then bring in a subdivision plat, just like we would anywhere else with any property. So that's, you still have to go through all that process in addition to doing this. So.
Right.
Any more questions?
Any more?
I just have a disclosure to make. Our company business has worked for Quantum Construction Development for, I think, well over 25 years. And so there's a really good possibility we would be bidding and possibly doing some of this work if that happened.
And with that, we will open the public hearing on this. We are going on items like this. We typically set a hour-long time for the public comments. I say that for everyone's benefit. So hopefully
I think that's
request is for everyone to be respectful of each other's time and for one person not to speak the entire time, but be respectful of your other friends and community members that are here. And so we've tried doing a set time for everybody to speak, and we found that this works better if everyone is respectful and tries not to repeat what others have said. And so other than stating your name, which if you don't, I will actually cut you off to get you to state your name. The time is now everybody's to address the council and just again try to keep in mind that we'll have like an hour for public comments and to be respectful of one another. And go ahead.
My name is Ronald Shelley. I am a resident of Eagle Ridge. I'm going to echo basically what Councilman Phillips had mentioned about the traffic issue. It is a big concern for us. We already have Eagle Ridge, which is not entirely built out yet. We have Talon Point, which is probably about a third of the homes are in. The canyons are just being developed now. The estates have just sound like they're about to be approved. So we have all these existing lots that are already in there. When South Mountain Drive was placed in there as a second entrance there, what it created was a new traffic artery. Everyone to the west is now commuting through this area. South Mountain Drive is posted at 45 miles an hour. The frontage road is posted at 45 miles an hour. They come into Eagle Ridge and they're supposed to be going 25 miles an hour. Supposed to be. They've actually clocked someone going over 100 miles an hour through the area. We have good friends, Ed and Jen Padgett, who live on the corner there. So when you turn from the South Mountain onto to go down to the frontage road, there is not even a stop sign there. So people zipping around there. Now we have people trying to back out of their driveways. We have children on the streets. We need to do something about the traffic before we allow additional units to be built. I'm per se of not against the idea of this RDL. I see land it's going to have to be developed. I personally think this is somewhat responsible, but the order that things are done, we need to address the traffic issues before we allow that pod 2 to be developed. That road going between the Home Depot coming up by the cement, that needs to be in and functioning before we get all these other things in, or we're just going to be overwhelmed. I would recommend some type of a bypass road that can continue the 45 mile an hour travel, that you don't have homes opening empty between the South Mountain and the frontage road. But we already seen the impact on the neighborhood of with the existing homes that are in there, and with South Mountain being open and being able to use it as a commuter lane. And we have all these other units that are already approved to go in there, and now we're talking about adding more. I strongly recommend that we address these traffic issues before we start approving additional lots.
My name's Joel Hansen. I happen to be the property owner for all of this stuff west of the canyons. And my only concern is that earlier in the presentation, they had a slide that said that the development adjacent to existing developments would be similar or the same zoning. But then as soon as you flip it to the map on the zoning, that statement doesn't hold true. So my only concern is making sure that, you know, as development happens along this southern border, that, you know, the parcels like this parcel here, part of it was RE on the RDO and the other part of it was medium density. This is all RE, and I've gone to great lengths to make that property more of an estate property. And I want to build my house about right there. And I would hate to have R1 behind me where I've gone to the expense and profit to make it RE and make it a nice development. I put 41 lots on there, and when I originally had that designed, I had 65 lots on that. And I told the person I was using as my land planner, I don't want to do that. I know it's more money, but however, that's an extremely nice piece of property for Cedar City, and I'd rather make it that way and keep it that way. So in being with good neighbors, I would just like to make sure that we kind of follow that zoning there. This piece over here would be an R1. But I haven't changed the zone on it. It's in annex transition now. So, you know, as far as I'm concerned, I don't have a problem with the RDO. I just want to make sure that we maintain it to be cohesive in between their property and ours. That's all. Thank you.
I'm Vicki Graham. I live in Eagle Ridge. I live on the corner of Eagle Ridge Loop and South Mountain. I just want to echo traffic concerns. They're crazy. They're insane. Those people come flying through there. Anyway, my concern is that if they build pod 2, where are those people going to go? If there's no infrastructure of road within that whole development, they're going to try to go somewhere, and they're going to end up coming down into our neighborhood trying to get out, just like they are from the west trying to get to Home Depot or the freeway. So traffic. I mean, please think
Well,
about it.
they'll have to build roads in there when they develop it. There will be roads in there. But your concern is which direction those roads go and where do they lead to? Sure.
Because we have a great neighborhood out there, and it's really beautiful, and it's nice and quiet, and that's why we bought out there.
Yeah.
And yeah, the dirt haulers these days for that canyon, crazy. Anyway, thank you.
Daryl Owen. So what we're talking about is really 3,500 houses, about 1,450 acres, about 44% growth of the city, 14,000 people if you figure 4 people per house. And the real question here is, has there been enough planning for 44% growth in the city? Well, in some respects, yes. The developer's done a fantastic job of providing green spaces, trails, rural feeling, water-wise vegetation. He's done a great job of developing a plan for water within his community or his development, but no new sources of water. We're at a 7,000 acre deficit per year for Iron County today. Our city water use aquifer level is going down. We've already seen that today. And again, no new sources of water. This is the first time that I've actually heard something from the Conservancy because of their plan finally to address water. But again, it shows the same scenario. Next one I want to talk about is schools. We know he has space in the area planned for schools. However, is it enough? Is it adequate for 44% growth? So we haven't really heard from the school district. Although one person is on our planning committee, is on our works for the school district. We haven't heard a word. This has been brought up at the planning committee as well. How will the schools be funded? What is the impact to class size? Again, none of these questions have been answered, and it's very frustrating. Another issue is fire. How do we deal with, there's no plans in here for fire stations, or police stations. How do we deal with this? 44% tells us that we should have 44% more resources available to us, yet that's not here for public safety. One of the things that I brought up to the planning committee last time was we should write in, and I finally saw something from the developer finally, we should write some sort of contract between the city and the developer that a certain portion of the labor will be used locally out of Iron County. They finally put something in there, and I feel the same way. I think it should be closer to 90% and not 70%, but I feel the same way about suppliers, like equipment suppliers and all the building supplies and things like that. The city attorney was present at our planning meeting, but there was no comment other than no.
Know about what?
Know that it couldn't be done.
Know what couldn't be
We
done?
couldn't write a contract between the developer and the city
Oh,
stating
about
such.
determining who they use for their work?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, that's private.
Yeah, well, other cities do it.
Industry.
Other cities do it, and it's done time in other communities.
I've never heard of that, sir.
That's conflict.
So let's move on to traffic. Starting at pod 7 through pod 8 will be the first road going down into pod 2. This is a 55-foot wide easement. Another road, sorry, I can't see without my glasses. Another road planned right here, 66-foot wide, and another one here that is 55, I believe. Might be 66. However, sorry, lost my place here. There's also a public school site on pod 5, a church location on pod 6, miles of master plan trails and community trails, miles of 16-inch, 12-inch water mains, a new water storage tank, a new booster pump, miles of storm drain, 36 inches and other sizes. But yet, they didn't plan even one road through the west side, pod 15, 14, and 13. So I asked the developer about this today. And I can share this with the committee if they choose, but in general, it states that it's not time to plan this. It's done at a different portion in the planning process and approval process. And yet it's being planned by the city. So this is the city master plan area, master plan road map. The area in question, pod 15, 14, and 13 are all right here. Why would the city put in a 66-foot wide road through a planned community if this wasn't in place? My point here is very simple. I don't believe that the planning committee and the developer don't have this laid out. I think they do. And it's really frustrating because I don't think the public is being told the truth. Why would you plan a road that's wider through a private community than what you're planning through the development itself? You're planning a 55-foot wide road all the way from the top to the bottom, unless there's already planned for 12 through 15 access. That's not on this RDO. I think I think this is a disgrace. You're not telling the public the truth.
That's not true, sir. That's simply not true.
Why would you change a road through this public community, through this private community over here then? This doesn't make any sense.
Well, it may not make sense, but nobody here is holding out truth from the public.
There's Westview, right there.
Yeah.
Why would you plan another road through here unless you needed access to this area?
Let me hold it up for you.
Anyone?
I'll answer a quick question, or quick answer. Those master plan roads are the city's master plan. That is not our master plan.
I understand that.
So we are following the city's master plan. We have nothing else beyond that city master plan.
And I'm addressing the city right now. Why is the city planning a road unless they're in cahoots with the developer for this area?
Well, we have master planned roads all around the city, so I'm not sure I'm following what your point is.
So, sir, the city looks at, okay, here's our property, here's the city. Where do we see a lot of growth going? And then we insert these master plan roads that can change, but we just think this could possibly work in the future as it develops. And what happened is a developer comes in, sees our master plan road, and then determines and develops and creates his development pursuant to our master planned roads. That's why that community would have been planned there, because it makes sense to what the city has been saying. This is what we think should go here.
And you realize this is county, not city, that I'm talking about.
Isn't that a private subdivision in the
Yeah.
county? So they're private roads?
Yeah, they're private roads.
So how could we connect onto a private road?
It's on your map.
Yeah.
September 28th, 18.
Which roads are you talking
This one right here.
about? Okay, so Paul Rollant.
Paul, will you talk into the microphone too? Will you go closer to the microphone?
Okay, I just want to share something with you. I talked with Reed Erickson yesterday, the county planner, and I was trying to figure out, okay, we live in the county, right? But we are on the annexation boundary of the city and will likely be annexed perhaps sometime in the future, but that's not a 100% sure thing, right? So I asked him, how does this work? And he said that typically the county and the city coordinate. So when they come up with the street, the master plan, they all agree, yep, this is a good place to put it. And so there's sort of some synchronicity there. In this case, that particular road, Reed told me they knew nothing about it. So that's why a lot of these folks are here. Number one is that we're feeling like we live in a community where there's mostly 2 to 4 acre lots. It's a very nice, quiet neighborhood. We understand there's going to be things that are going to grow around us, but we don't want a major road coming through our community for either 1950 South or Cross Hollow Hills Road. So that's one of the big questions that we're here to answer. Plus, we're also just concerned about the kind of lifestyle that we all enjoy where we live. There's a reason that we want to maintain that. Now, we know that things are going to grow around us, but right now, even with all these presentations, I can't really tell you how that will impact us. So I think that's part of the reason, and this whole road thing has definitely gotten everybody's attention. But I think the broader development, and are we talking 2,000 units? Are we talking 3,500 units? We've got to get this stuff nailed down before
the market
someone
will
would
dictate that. The
I'm sorry?
market will dictate that. It just depends
Well,
on what
but
the market
okay,
does.
so here's a question. If this is a pod development and we're going to do it as the market calls for, can we also have some milestones that say, oh, stop everything, we've used enough water?
No, we can't.
Why not?
Because we're planning for water, and I'll address that in a minute. But what if you own that property? Do you want us to tell you can't develop it?
If there's no water for it, yes.
What if you had you
what I'm
can't?
trying to say is that
sir, there's private property rights involved here, and this
and I'm a
community
private property owner.
You are, but you have a house here, and you moved here from somewhere else probably. So once you have your house built, do we shut everybody else off?
Does that matter?
I think it does.
I've been
yes.
here for 15 years.
Okay.
Is that good enough?
Well, I just don't think people have property and they have the rights to develop it.
But what I'm interested in is the quality of life for every single resident in this community. And what I'm basically saying, there are certain things that we all have to provide for. And all I'm saying is, if you're willing to say we're going to only allow so much of this development to happen when the market dictates, great. I think that's a good idea.
I think that's the natural. It's going to happen by itself.
But can we
based on the
also
market.
include in that some milestones that say, guess what? Here's some things we didn't predict. Here's some things we didn't know. We can no longer develop it. That's my thought. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. So we've already heard
Okay,
from
now
the,
I'm going to be obnoxious. Will you state your name again just so we
Sure.
can make
Daryl
sure we
Owen.
know who's talking at what time on the recording?
certainly, Daryl Owen. So we've already heard the developer that he's going to develop from the outside inward. Obviously, pod 12 through 15 are on the outside. This is about 30% of his, about 30% or so of the property that is in question. I'm very frustrated right now with how I see the city council progressing. I'm frustrated that we have people on the planning committee that, in my opinion, are conflicts of interest, like architects, contractors, real estate agents. Personally, I don't think they should be there. And
So
as
let me
did-
interrupt there right there. Okay, let's just talk about that.
Sure.
Who do you want to serve on these committees, sir? everybody's going to have conflicts of interest. That's part of the deal. I mean, we serve in these positions and we're all going to have conflicts of interest. You can't get away from it. But like what I did, I disclosed tonight that our company works in the construction field, and I disclosed that, and that's what's required. Who do you want to serve on city councils? Do you want somebody that, I would dare you to find anybody that doesn't have a conflict of interest.
Okay. Well, I disagree. I think it's quite easy to find them.
Okay.
Whether or not they want to serve is another question.
That's a good point.
Now, I'm just telling you that we found this out on the wayside, and I think I think they should be replaced. Okay. I think you need to clean house.
By who?
Well,
you
we'll
can
let the
elect
mayor
it.
find that.
That happens in the next election. You have every right to replace.
No, the mayor appoints these people for 4 years.
There's also a value in some of these positions where you have a certain area of expertise, because things come to the planning commission where you need an architect to be able to know something about a particular issue, as opposed to just someone who is, works as a plumbing store. I don't know who it is, but I agree with you. You got to be careful about that, but you need a balance in there, because you got to have some people that also understand the issues when things come up to them.
And remember that the committees are all merely recommending bodies to the city council. They don't have a binding vote. Everything still comes before the elected city council, which is elected by our community. So they're recommending bodies that send a recommendation, positive or negative, that then the city council can take, and they still study out the issue, and we still have public meetings like this. So all right, you can continue.
Okay. So I think you have some action items. I think you need to clean house. Remove these people and replace them with unbiased people that can do what's right for the community. It's not necessarily there for their own pocketbook. I also think right now, given the turmoil that this committee, not this committee, but the planning committee is in with biased people, I think you should send every single building project back to them for review. I think these problems about water, school, and first respond and traffic flow all have to be addressed before it comes to this group here.
Can I interrupt for a minute, sir?
Sure.
Okay. So let's talk about water. I resigned recently, but I've served for over 7 years on the Central Iron County Water Conservancy District. 20 years ago, that district was formed. And over 10 years ago, I have met, and Councilwoman Hartley's now on that board and doing a great job, but we meet every month, and usually it's about a 3 to 4 hour meeting in this room. A lot of times we start at 5:30. A lot of times we don't get out here till 10 or 11 o'clock at night. So for over 7 years, we have addressed water. Over 10 years ago, we filed on 15,000 acre feet in Wawa Valley, or in Pine Valley, and 12,000 in Wawa. 2 months ago, that water, we've been in a lawsuit with Sitla, with Beaver County, and with Utah Alunite. And it's been about maybe a month ago, a little over, a judge just signed off that is our water. That belongs to the Central Iron County Water Conservancy District. It's ours. It can never be taken away from us. It's our water. Right now we're going through an environmental assessment, that board, which Councilwoman Hartley sits on. We just got $250,000 from the Utah legislature to start that environmental assessment. The board will also contribute another $500,000. And they're going through that process right now. We've drilled wells out there. We've done pump tests. We've worked extensively for years, many hundreds of hours on that situation. We've also spent many hundreds of hours on recharge projects, and they're successful. We've got about 7 of them right now going, and we're trying to replenish the aquifer through recharge. All the water that's coming down the mountain, going to waste in Quichapa, we're trying to put it in the ground before it gets there. We've worked hundreds of hours. The county, the city, lots of local businesses has contributed. Frank Nichols just donated a D10 cat for a week, which is probably $20,000 value, for free. We are working on this. Community, business, everybody, county, city, everybody's been working on this hard. We've also got water. We got a $220,000 grant from the state legislature to help the farmer. The farmers, Councilman Phillips talked about agriculture. They use 80% of the water in this valley. And that goes back to another private property issue. They own those rights. They're old. They own them. They can use them to water their fields. As was brought up by Jonathan, we're buying rights as we can. We're trying to buy more water each year as a city. But we're trying to, through that program, we got enough money to outfit 20 pivots in this valley to where if the agriculture community can be 20% more efficient with the water they use by lowering the heads down closer to the ground and using more of a bulber action so the wind doesn't blow and evaporate the water away. Between that and our recharge, I believe we can make up that 7,000 acre foot deficit we have. So we are working on it. We spend a lot of time and a lot of effort. So just want to clear that up.
Yeah, and I'm not disputing that. What I'm saying
Said
is,
we're not making any plans.
hold on, let me finish. What I'm saying is right now the horse is before the carriage. You're trying to build more, or this developer is trying to build more without really, right now, a solid solution to the water problem.
This is a 20 to 40 year project.
Then why are we rushing it? Why are we trying to rush this through so fast?
They've been working on that. I don't know how long. Have you long we've been working on this, Ron?
Just this part of it, 2 years.
So why can't we get things like roads and our RDO? Because that's the,
Been a design done on the road.
okay.
I
Ron, you
I don't believe that.
You get to come up to the microphone if you're talking. You know this.
I will. I'm glad to because
And you have to say your name again.
Ron Larson with Lubbock Land. I personally drew this whole plan. I have designed every road that you see on there. I've designed a few other roads. We've done roads up in Pod 1. We've done a few roads in Pod 2. That is the total roads that have been designed on this. There has been no discussion of any roads to go to the west because there's no, I mean, it's all subdivision to the west.
Well, per your words, you're building from the outside inward.
Well,
That is on the outside. And you're telling me that you don't have
Okay,
a plan?
we're going from the top to the bottom and the bottom up. Okay.
So. My barn has better plans than this.
I would again just kind of ask you to be respectful of everyone else's time because you have a line of people behind you still wanting to
I
speak.
understand that. I understand that. My barns have better plans than this. I believe that they do exist. I don't think we're being told the truth.
Mayor.
Okay. Yeah, like we're not going.
Just not bit personal.
Yeah,
and
we're
both
not
get to
going
the
to
point.
start accusing people of lying and all of that. That's not appropriate. One thing I will ask is if people are referring to like specific documents when they speak, if we could have those to attach to the minutes, like the articles and different things that you referenced, if I could get a copy of those, it would be great so they could attach to the minutes. It will really help out Ani, who's typing for us. All right, go ahead.
Thank you. I would like to continue our concern about water.
State your name though.
My name is Harold Pease.
Thank you.
When I moved into this community, I shortly thereafter learned that I couldn't have the lawn I wanted because of water. And I've heard about that concern ever since I've been here. In this meeting, I also learned something very interesting. I think I heard somebody say that 40 years from now, we would be a population of 77,136. Right now, we're a population of 31,223, or at least as of 2017. So, Paul, you have spent considerable time on the water issue, but you haven't convinced me that we have enough or will have enough for 77,136. Now, we're going to keep looking for water, but unless a big river opened up in the mountains that we didn't know about and is prepared to flood this area, we're building, and we have no limitation on building. And what I heard here is that we're going to let nature take its course. I've lived in a society
correct
that did that.
So Jonathan, in his numbers, he said we Cedar City owns 20,000 acre feet of what? 20,088 acre feet, and we're using 8,504 right now. Okay.
So we have plenty of water for
so
77,000.
So the projected growth in 40 years is 77,136, and
Mhm.
that's enough. What we own right now is enough to cover that. That doesn't count the water in the West Desert.
But what I also heard in this meeting, I've heard the answer is conserve. I've heard that 5 times since I've been here today. So the answer is lower the bubblers or whatever, but it's conserve. I heard that in California for many years. What that meant was that we couldn't use water outside our homes except on odd days or even days, depending upon what was the law. And tickets were given to people who used too much water. If there was any water that was overflowing on sidewalks or on you're washing your car on your driveway, you could be ticketed, and people were ticketed. So I don't think that this is a ridiculous argument. I'm not convinced that you have enough water, but Paul is, and he's able to tell us that is the so. So why am I hearing that everybody is having to cut back? I can't have a big lawn because we don't have enough water. So that's a concern. In the project that we just had presented to us, we're going to have 3,508 new housing units incorporated in the Iron Horse Development Project alone to share the same limited supply of water. We express serious concern about unlimited development. Developers come and go, but we, your neighbors, are left with the problems they leave. They walk off with a lot of money. We have crowded cities. We have moved here to avoid some of these things. But in this case, perpetual water shortage. If we're talking about what we can obtain in the future, that's not in the hand. And so I still have my concern for water, which I don't feel has been addressed in this meeting because I hear that the solution is to cut back. And maybe Paul is right, and I hope that he is. Honestly, I do. I'm a resident, I'm one of those that a road is going to be made wider, 4 lanes. And so I have concern because I now, in this community, will have a 4-lane highway in my front yard. Well, somebody has to have it in their front yard, I suppose you would say. But it is a concern. I have found no resident in favor of this move. I'm talking about Westview Drive for the following reasons. For many of us, a 4-lane highway immediately reduces the value of our property. It also makes our property less attractive for a prospective buyer. And if we should sell in the future, for many of us, it places the 4-lane highway in our front yard or too close to a bedroom. One of your citizens here that's sitting behind me gets sliced twice. Not only Westview Drive and its enlargement, but also 1950 South. And so we have some serious concerns about these. The noise of a 4-lane highway would double and be constant day and night. The danger to children with the increased traffic and probable speed limit increases and is not measurable. For many of us, there exists open, undeveloped land on the west side of the highway. Any new, in my case, across the street is merely sagebrush. So if we are going to enlarge a highway, I would ask the city council to consider first taking it out of undeveloped land before you take it out of developed land. Some of these things may come, and they must come, perhaps, but I would also like to see, and you do have it on your map that I looked at earlier during the week, you do have a proposed 75-foot wide highway, maybe it was 66, I can't remember now, and I presume it's at 47 south. Anyway, it goes north and east, or north and south, and I propose that perhaps that might be built. It would enlarge what exists, but it wouldn't be a 4-lane highway, and not make West View a 4-lane highway. You might want to widen it a little bit if you felt that that were necessary, but you are doing damage to our community if you make it into a 4-lane highway. I thank you for listening to me, and I hope I have been logical, and there may be some good results from my time thinking through this thing. Thank you.
And can I get what you?
Thank you.
Can I get a copy of what you read? Can I get a copy of what you read?
Sure.
Okay.
I'll be happy to.
Thank you so much.
So I may have missed it, but is Westview going to be a 4-lane? Is it planned to be? Well, I'm asking Kit, so,
It is master planned to be a major arterial, 100-foot wide, 4-lane road.
but there's no timeline or anything on that.
They said between
Okay.
10 to 15 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
But meanwhile, it's going to be on our deeds, and so whether it's developed or not, it's going to depreciate our property, even if there isn't the road. And then, sorry.
If you're gonna,
Brad Bassett,
okay.
and I'm on the corner. I'm going to lose 25 feet in my front because of this wide road. And
Corner of what? Westview's a long road.
yeah,
Corner of
1950
Thank you.
South.
Thank
Sorry. And anyway, I don't have any problems with that because development. I'm a carpenter, so obviously I made a living off of development. I'm a retired carpenter. But anyway, so I don't have any problems with that. That's the nature of the beast. But what I have a problem with, and I'm sure Eagle Ridge has the same problem, is we have this development, and now all of a sudden somebody's developing next to us, and they want to go through our development. That's where I have the problem with. So I'm going to lose the frontage through Westview, and then I've been told now they're going to widen that up on 1950 South in the front, and I'm supposed to lose another 25 feet there. All my fences are gone. My front entry pole is gone. My gates are gone. My front, and I have no say in it because I'm in the county and the city's coming to me. So, like I said, and Eagle Ridge has the same problem. They have their development, and now all of a sudden people are developing around them, and they want to go right through the middle of their development. And that has to do with planning. And so that's the thing that I guess we're upset about, is it's not planned right. So anyway, sorry.
Honorable Mayor and City Council members, my name is Eric Natwick. I'm a retired entomologist from the University of California. I worked for 36 years at the Desert Research and Extension Center. We live in a desert. It's a similar environment. This high desert, I worked in low desert, but it's a desert. Okay, this RDO to me is a disaster. My first question to you is, this proposed development, does the land currently belong to Sitla? Is that the
Yes.
case?
Yes.
So is Sitla a public or a private entity? Public. So we're talking about public land. So we're talking about taking out nearly 1,500 acres of public land. And if you read the planning committee's report, that's why I understood you were given this, then you saw my testimony there.
Mhm.
I happen to know from personal experience and from studying the environment of a desert forest made of pinyon pine and spruce that the species that I listed, 123, exists there. 8 of those are either on a protected or an endangered species. One's an endangered species that I have actually seen in this proposed area. That one happens to be our famous, or if you don't like them, our infamous Utah prairie dog. But it is considered an endangered species. So you can look at what I listed there. Those are just, there are probably more species. I didn't even list probably a lot of the insects that are there. That's my specialty, entomology. But there are a lot of plant species, a lot of animal species that are going to disappear. The most important thing to animals is habitat. They have to get from their habitat shelter, food, and water. We're talking about taking out at least 900 acres in this proposed area that's going to be available to these animals. Where are they going to go? They're either going to die out or they're going to cause problems in residential areas. And this is a fact. I can tell you as a biologist, nearly my entire life, all my adult life. And so we're creating a problem. We're talking about a growth of Cedar City from the last census in their projected 40 years of nearly doubling the size. I remember when this was a small town. I've been driving through this city since 1981 when I took the job in Southern California and would go to my parents' home and sister and brothers and whatnot in Wyoming, where I grew up. I love forested areas. I love wildlife. We're talking about taking something that is special. Okay, Cedar City back at the time was only like 5,000 or 6,000 people. St. George was about 3,000 or so people. You've seen what's happened in the St. George area, over 100,000 people. It's putting stress on the environment. It's also, as you've talked, putting stress on our resources such as water. We heard tonight that we have a stressed water treatment plant. And we're not increasing capacity. We're just trying to make sure that we can deliver clear water. I don't even know where that effluent goes, but hopefully it's going to good use. Okay, I don't know what the plans are in this area if it is developed, which I hope it is not. What are the plans for the water treatment plant? This is something that all of us as citizens of this community are going to be burdened with. Okay, I am also concerned about the fire protection. I'll tell you why from very good experience. I bought my house in 2014, and shortly after that, 2015, Mr. Bancroft, retired investigator with the LA District Attorney's Office, built just to the west of me. I now have the Shellys who spoke are building to the east of me. And when Mr. Bancroft had his contractor had the roll off in front of his house, the thing caught fire. It took 45 minutes. I'm out there with a hose trying to keep it down, but my little garden hose isn't going to fight that kind of fire. It took 45 minutes for the Cedar City Fire Department to respond. And I'm not trying to badmouth them. I think the chief is here. I think the police and the fire are doing the best they can. But we're stressing our resources by adding a lot more infrastructure. And this green zone is one of the things that makes Cedar City unique and a place that people want to come. I'm not against development, but I think we need slow, planned development. I don't see this as being a private issue, except that somebody wants to develop it. It's public land. Let's don't take out a big green zone that makes it a nice place for all of us to live and enjoy and develop it. I just don't think that's a wise thing to do. So I am definitely against this RDO, and I don't have anything, I guess, more to say, so I'll sit down.
Sir, I just wanted to, sir.
Yes, sir.
I just want to point out that Sitla is in the development business. That's what they do. They acquired this property and they develop it to make a profit to give to our school children.
Good. Is it or is it not public land?
Sure it is.
Okay.
It's state.
But it's not public land like BLM or Forest Service. They
Right.
own that specifically
I
to support our
understand.
schools.
I understand how this
so-
works. Okay. And I understand the position that you're all in. I've been in rooms. I was on a city council for 8 years and I've been the mayor of the same city. Okay. I've had a lot more hostile crowds than this. You know, you have my sympathy. All right. And I'm not hostile towards you. You're as much my neighbors as anybody else in this room. But I'm just telling you that my personal opinion and many from our neighborhood, by the way, I'm at 2766 West Eagle Ridge Loop, which brings up another point, but I'll get that in a second. Okay. Well, let's just go to that point. Okay. Pod 2. If this is developed, Pod 2, it says R1. When we were at the planning commission meeting, we were told that those were going to be a third of an acre. Tonight, I heard they're going to be a quarter of an acre. We have larger lots than that in our development. So you're talking about putting a real dense, comparatively dense area as R1 right behind us. My lot is one of the smaller lots out there. Mine is about 2/3 of an acre. Mr. Bancroft to the west of me is 3/4 of an acre. The one that's being built by the Shelleys to the east of me is 1.1 acres. You know, I don't like that kind of planning, and I don't believe that these plans are going to necessarily be written in stone. I have seen other plans around this city, and I'm going to go into details right now unless you really want to know, where things seem to change. So we get a plan in place, we think we're going to get luxury apartments, and we get low-income apartments. You know, what happens? Something changes. I don't necessarily believe that what is up there proposed today is going to be what we see in the future. And that is a concern to me. So all these things are concerns to me. I want to live in a nice community. That's why we moved here. Like I say, for 36 years, my wife and I drove through here back and forth, summer and sometimes winter. And we love this community. We love Southern Utah. It's a beautiful, beautiful area. So like Joni Mitchell said in the song Big Yellow Taxi, you're going to pave paradise and put up a parking lot. Okay? Let's don't do it.
Good evening. My name is Steve Carroll. I live in Cross Hollow Hills, and I'm currently serving as the HOA president out there. I'm going to have to, feel a little bit sympathetic to the Bassett's, 1950 South and Cross Hollow Drive. You know, that development, if you put roads on Westview and 1950 South, that will adversely affect their property considerably. You know, it'll depreciate their value quite a bit. The two couple concerns, and just as a footnote, you know, in regards to water, we were our own independent Cross Hollow Hills Water Users Association. Over the last 3 years, we've been negotiating with the Conservancy District, and we did just convert over, and they have taken it over now. Their water concerns were huge to the point that I had to write a check on behalf of the subdivision for $60,000 to purchase additional water shares because of the issues that were presented to us of the grave desire, need for that water. So that's a secondary thought. But my issue is this: sometime another cart before the horse. We got noticed by the appraiser on Westview Drive. We had no prior information about any meeting regarding that 4-lane highway. And the appraiser was a little bit frustrated because we didn't have any meeting that was afforded to us to discuss that 4-lane highway as well. And then the other thing is 1950 South, 20 years experience. I'm the third house on the right-hand side. I can tell you every year that we have snow, I have many people that are parked in my driveway. I've had my mailbox knocked down. I've had people that can't get up 1950 South because of the steepness of that. So you guys are proposing, the planning department's proposing to put a widening of that road For what reason, I don't know. We weren't informed of anything, but multiple times over the years, we've had vehicles that could not get up there, had to park at my house. I wake up in the morning sometimes and have no idea why there's 2 cars parked in my driveway. It's because they can't get up. So now you guys are proposing to put a widened 4 or 2 or 3 extra lanes in there for additional traffic. I don't know if the planners realize the issue there, but it's something that needs to be addressed. And we have no idea what the purpose or what the intent of that road is. So I think we need to be informed. We just had our annual board meeting on Saturday, and this was the first that many of us heard about this. So I just think that we need to, as county residents, not city residents, to understand what's going on and planning for the future. That's all I really have to say. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Wyatt Eiler. I am a resident of Eagle Ridge. My property abuts the proposed Pod 2. And I just wanted to say that I do echo the concerns of my friends and neighbors that have been shared tonight. One thing that I did want to bring up, and this is, I recognize that development is inevitable. In fact, the subdivision in which I live, I wouldn't be living there had it not been developed. And I recall when it was developed, driving out there and thinking to myself, who in their right mind would want to live out here? Well, apparently there's quite a few of us. But I've loved living out there. It's a great place. I have a small family, and that Pod 2 area has become the extended backyard that I didn't know we needed. And I lament the potential loss of that. One of the things I did want to bring up is that we have the great fortune of living in an area that has a designated dark sky park just up the canyon, just up the road. And one of the things that I love about where I live is that I can step out into my backyard and I can still see the Milky Way. I can still see the stars. We sit out and look at the constellations. We watch the meteor showers. And that's something that I have grown to love about where I live. I love this community. I never thought when I came to SUU was going to be the school I went to and then went somewhere else. I fell in love with Cedar City in my time at SUU. And I have made a commitment to make this community my home. I have put considerable time and effort into the things that this community has to offer, and I love being here. And so as we continue our development, one of the things that I hope that we would consider is the recognition that we do have a precious resource in our dark skies, and that we would be mindful of those things as we plan for new developments and continue to grow our great city in a managed and thoughtful manner. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Bob Pritchard. I live in Cross Hollow Hills. Thanks for the opportunity to get to talk with you. I drove down Westview today, and I drive down Westview, South Mountain Road to go to Home Depot and Walmart. And one of the things I've told people that I know about why I like Cedar City is when I do that, I see 2 or 3 cars. Okay. If you make Westview a 4-lane highway, think very hard yourselves about your own lives and what it would mean to you. You all have houses probably, and you probably live on 2-lane roads. What's it going to do to your house if the city comes in and because some developer wants to do development, takes your 2-lane road and turns it into a 4-lane road and you lose 20, 30 feet of your frontage? Are any of you going to want that to happen? I don't think so. And it's not just the people that live on the road. It's also the people that have any line of sight with the road. We have to listen to the cars go by and the tractor trailers that are now going to use that road to get from old 91 to the 56 because it's a nice 4-lane road. So we're going to have the noise of that. We're going to have the diesel smell, the gasoline smell, the danger from the traffic to our family. And I don't think any of you would want to do that. If you want to do development, but don't have a major impact on the people that already live there. Do development where it'll have the minimum impact on the minimum number of people. There are hundreds of families on Westview and 1950 that are going to be majorly impacted by this change. And I just beg you, encourage you not to do this here. If you need to make 4-lane roads, make them out farther west where there's, just straight farmland. Thank you very much.
My name is Tiffany Christiansen, and I don't want to echo everything that everyone said, but I appreciate what they've said. But I would like to add, please don't rush into making this decision. In that next week, we quickly make a decision and say, okay, it's a done deal. It's taken so many years of planning, as they've mentioned, and there's all these concerns. I would hope that we would take some time to really think through and welcome many of the ideas that the people, not just of Cross Hollow Hills or Eagle Ridge, but think of yourselves as if you lived in these areas. Think of the questions that you might have and welcome it as if it is your own neighborhood. So let's take time to think through this process, because I've heard things tonight that I was completely unaware of. And so it's opening my mind as well. But I think it's good for us to think, who are our neighbors? What is going to happen here? What will be the impact? I personally know that I will look out I was told it was BLM property. Of course, that was inaccurate information I was given when I bought my property. Now I know that. But I will look out on a complete development right outside my home. And right now I'm pretty much in the middle of nowhere because I live on that far end of Cross Hollow Hills. But I'm just asking you, take your time. Let's think through this. Let's not hurry and rush something just because a developer feels like this is the right thing to do for them at this time. Thank you.
We have about 5 minutes left of public comments for tonight. All right.
Quick.
Oh, you're fine.
My name is Ann Jacobs, and I just wanted to get a little clarification. I'm from Cross Hollow Hills development, and when they say a 66 foot wide road, is that a 2-lane or is that a 4-lane or is that a 2 with bike? What is that?
It's basically a 2-lane road with a turning lane in the middle and wide shoulders on it. To the
Okay,
curb and
because
gutter.
I would echo Mr. Carroll's concerns with that 1950 South. I mean, the buses can't even get up there. When it snows, we have to try to get our kids, well, my kids are older now, but we had to try to get our kids over that hill down towards Westview just to catch the bus. So I just can't even imagine having a wide road going up through there. And my last question is, since we are county, what are our rights as far as a private development and having that road go through there, since you guys are a city planning? What's the
What road are you talking about?
Cross Hollow Drive? Or South 1950 South and Cross Hollow Drive.
It's in our subdivision.
Are we trying to widen 1950 south over on that side?
Yeah,
of the hill?
1950, yes.
Cross Hollow Road. I'm confused. What's 1950?
It's a good thing we showed up.
Yeah, we're not.
Paul, can you?
We're out there doing any acquisition to widen 1950. We're out there doing acquisition to widen Westview Drive. So currently we have there's no project budgeted to widen 1950 south. We're out there trying to buy property so we can widen Westview as a north-south corridor.
So
Just because it's on the road master plan doesn't mean that we're waking up tomorrow morning and trying to widen it. That's not how the master plan works.
Okay, and as
Also,
long as
if
we're,
it's-
no, I'm sorry. Yeah,
It must be an idea.
Okay.
as long as we're county, I'm sorry, I'll quit. As long as we're county, can you guys do that, or does that happen after we were annexed sometime in the future?
Does what happen?
The roads, like building the roads, I know you say you don't have plans now, but if somebody wanted to widen the roads sometime in the future, can you do that while we're still considered county, or does that have to wait till we were annexed by the city?
If it's a city road, it would be annexed into the city.
We're not going to go widen somebody else's road.
So that would
We got
be
enough
way
roads
in the
to worry
future
about.
is what we're talking on that. Okay.
Oh, you're in the
So
county.
it's
yeah.
not happening tomorrow.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. We still have a couple minutes.
Lisa Natwick, Eagle Ridge. I happened to pick up the sketch project review agenda. And I noticed that on the sketch review agenda for tomorrow morning, there's a zone change from RA to R1 for Pod 2 and Pod 6 of the Iron Horse development. And there's a zone change from RA to multiple use for Pod 1 on the sketch plan.
Okay.
So here's how this is the development process 101. It's probably not even 101. When we get a landowner that wants to do some sort of development on their property, that's the meeting that they start in, is project review and sketch. It's a very preliminary look at their property. We go over things like how the water is going to be supplied, where the roads are going to come in. On a zoning, it probably doesn't get that in depth, but we go over things on zoning to make sure it complies with the master plan and whether or not it complies with, in this case, the RDO. That's just the first step. From there, it goes to the planning commission. On a zone change, there's going to be public hearings from planning commission all the way through city council. So it's going to take, Ron's going to show his smiling face in this chamber for the next 6 to 8 weeks, trying to get that project from where it is now to where it ends up.
So each pod as, if this RDO were to be put in place by your vote next week, each zone change by pod will have to come before planning
Correct.
commission and again.
Before city council, correct.
So it just starts there
And
with
once they
staff and everybody.
want to subdivide within the newly zoned land, they have to start all over again at project review. And then we talk about water and roads and curb and gutter and sidewalk and drainage and all those other issues, power, sewer, natural gas, fiber, telephone, everything like that. That's where they get in touch with all those utilities and make sure that they can get served. And the utilities go to the developer and say, yeah, we can serve you, but you're going to have to extend a line 3 miles and here's your bill. And that's where all those things start working out.
Like I said, I'm going to learn a lot about the process and be here a lot. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ron Larson, again, I just wanted to clarify a couple of things. The 1950 and the Westview Drive thing have nothing to do with
Right.
our project. Okay. We've been getting questions from people like, what does that have to do with us? And it doesn't. So I just want to make sure everybody understood that that doesn't have anything to do with it. Nothing. We're not doing anything past that line right there.
Not today.
No, we have absolutely no plan to go there. Anyway.
Yeah, we know that.
Okay.
Yes.
The other thing I wanted to, oh, no, I forgot. Never mind. Okay. Do you have
Okay.
any more questions for us?
Does council have questions for Ron?
Thank you.
Not right now.
Appreciate your time. Better allowed.
Then, with that, we will close our public hearing for tonight. And does the council have any additional comments, questions? No, we'll put this on the action agenda.
I'd just like to say, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, okay.
I'd just like to say, my understanding of this, as I've looked into it, that if different developers came in and chipped away at this, you could end up with 10,000 properties on that plot of land. And I think they've taken their time. I think they've planned this out. They've left a lot of green space, and they've limited the number of homes. They've been reasonable with their planning on not building on hilltops and different things. And I think they've done a good job with this. And I think it looks ginormous but it's a long-term, it's 25 to 40-year plan. And it's an overlay that I think they've put a lot of thought into. And like I said before, Sitla's in the development business, and that's what they plan to do with their lands. So
I still have concerns about the roads and where the roads go, but I know this is early in the stage and early in the process, and I think we have to continue to look at that and talk about how it affects traffic flow and the existing subdivisions and what it means. And I'll stand by that because I do have a concern about that.
With that, we'll put this on the action agenda.
Mm-hmm.
And truly, we thank you all for coming and being a part of the conversation and being involved and engaged. And this will all happen again next week, 5:30, same time, same place. Okay, we'll move on to the staff portion of the agenda with item number 8. But we're going to wait for just a second for the people that want to leave. And if those of you that had read the different items or have the handouts, if you could leave those with me, I would greatly appreciate it.
Jason, I'm shocked that they're all leaving. The 1950 in Westford. I mean, it just came off the radio.
You cannot.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Talking about us.
But then you want to have people like Bill Peterson, who's an average citizen.
Yes.
Yes. Because it's just, no, it's not at all. And it's not happening as long as this is county and so.
I disclose, and that's what the law requires.
Paul, I don't know what that Iron Horse layout looks like. I'm getting calls from people saying that they're going to punch roads over and across Hollis Hill. Let me show you their layout. I got to email it to them tonight. But their layout doesn't punch.
That has nothing to do with
They kept
anything.
saying going up the steep hill.
That's my brother has property out
Because
there.
it's just long range looking at things. It has.
But that doesn't mean that that road was still on there. That road could have been on there for 20 plus years.
Well, in fact, somebody was misled that it would be 11.
Doesn't surprise me.
Yeah,
at
that's
all.
not
So I was trying to figure out.
and it doesn't mean that different master roads that are on there as, yeah. And as development happens, it doesn't mean that different roads that at one time we thought that was the perfect location, ends up, development happens and we say, yeah, that really doesn't make sense. And so. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Thanks for clearing it up.
All right, we'll get back to our agenda with item number, the staff portion with item number 8. Where's Scott? Okay, we're just gonna keep going. Councilman Phillips, I'm still talking. Okay, presentation of the fiscal year 1920 budget to the city council. No.
No, we can't.
We can't do it where it's okay.
Yeah, just get everybody.
Just move.
Chief, will you go out there for a second and just make sure everyone's kind of quiet? Yeah, one way or another.
They'll all want to come back in.
Well, I do have
Jason
concerns.
starts anyway.
Nothing to interrupt
I do
this
have concerns
riveting
about
presentation.
But-
When they hear him speech start, they'll all come back in. So I
Oh,
want
boy.
to listen to that.
Let's just replace this one that I've got right here.
Bill's thicker.
Thank you.
I have the original one.
You do?
Original.
Where did you
Kind
get
of.
it? Oh, you mean from the approved one?
Yeah, well, the one that we talked through.
Jason Norris, Finance Office.
Thank you.
I did not print out any big awesome poster props, so my apologies.
We're disappointed.
Just a packet of budget
I was
stuff.
holding your VHS camera or
So-
something set up.
Here we are again. Welcome to the fiscal year 2020 budget.
Wow.
So tonight, all we're required to do by state law is give you a copy of the tentative proposal from the mayor. And this kicks off formally our budget process. So we will be having some one-on-one public meetings with each department in the city in the next couple of weeks. We'll be able to discuss in depth every line item project, not only in the budget, but with staff and with that department. So we're not intending to do any of that tonight. You're not approving anything tonight. And we won't be adopting the tentative budget until later in May, and then the final will happen in June. So here we are. I typed up a memo of just a couple of preliminary items. One, of course, is it's prepared in accordance with state law. Tax revenues are up again this year. Sales tax specifically is projected to increase at least $582,000. As you all know, we approach our budget as a zero-based budget. We don't just say how much money do we have, how can we go spend all of it. We work from the expenditure side, and then we adjust our revenue to make sure that we can cover that, and we can cover everything that we've proposed tonight. Personnel costs, you'll see that's a big number this year. There's a net increase of $826,552. That includes both funding. Now that's comprehensive for both all the general tax base funds and the 5 enterprise funds, that total number. We are proposing on the personnel side a 2.5% merit wage increase and a 4.5% cost of living increase for all full-time and regular part-time employees. There's been some adjustments for hourly employees in various departments, but this does not include just your standard hourly worker.
Jason, is that projected figure assuming that everybody gets the full merit? Is it projected with everybody getting it?
Yes. So the budget projection is the total comprehensive cost of all this. If an employee's performance makes them ineligible for that, it would be in budget only.
Hey, Jason, can I ask a question on that?
Yes.
When we had our initial budget meetings, we had merit increases of 2.5 and COLA at 2.5 for a 5% total.
Yes, that when the sales tax came back higher and insurance came down some, we looked at employees and where we were and looked at doing this 7%.
That's a lot.
So it's coming before you all. And
I think with the, I have a concern with that, with the insurance increase and going 7%. I think I thought the 5% was pushing it, but
I think it's great. But I need to see this budget in detail because I want to look through it very carefully.
No, it's great.
And that's a great question. Yes. So that is correct. When we met 2-on-2 with all of you council members, at that time, preliminarily, we had requested a total 5% wage increase. There were additional discussions with staff. I know some staff members have reached out to council. Many employees have hoped or requested that we might adjust some of our salary issues from prior years when funding wasn't put in to employees. So in the mayor's proposal, yes, it's now 7% rather than 5%. So yes,
I wish we had been, I don't know. I guess we should just find out about it now.
well, we've been crunching numbers up until 5/25.
Well, I'm assuming we can go through and look at this, but this is
Yes,
just a
and
preliminary.
this is just the preliminary, very tentative, and we were waiting to get the insurance stuff back, and when that came down lower as well, then
Because originally that was going up 19.
it was 19.9.
Okay.
So does this include any of those adjustments requested
What do
by
you mean?
one particular department?
No,
The longevity calculations, is that what you're talking
No.
about?
We talked about. None
So-
of that's put in there.
We had our human resources department go through the longevity calculations on a similar formula that the police department had brought up.
Okay.
And we applied it to every employee in the city. And we can provide you the spreadsheet that shows you those numbers. That's no problem. But to finance that longevity component would cost almost as much, if not more than this increase. And it would only impact less than 100 of your full-time employees. You have 150 plus. So it would impact less people. You would see big sums of money going to individuals and some of them getting none. And you would see at least 70 employees getting zero budgeted in for increases. So when we looked at that administratively and said, okay, do we try to do this longevity calculation to try and make up for sins of the past, alleged sins of the past, or do we look forward and say, what can we do to benefit the most of the employee base and not just a select 60 or 70 people? What can we do along those lines that spreads it further?
But how do you ever, are you able to ever correct those sins from the past?
No, it's we're moving. What can we do today to go forward? I mean, it was downturn in the economy. We can't go backwards. So it's just a matter of how do we move forward?
We just got to be careful. We're talking about a 20% increase. And it's a lot of money. And I just hope we continue on an upward trend.
Well, I guess that would be the only question I would have too, is to make sure, Jason, that as we look at this, whatever the increase ends up being, that is it something that we can sustain as a city as we move forward 2 years from now, 5 years from now, you know?
Yes, this we can sustain this. As you're all aware, we're still trying to adjust compensation to market rates. We have challenges when we hire.
Yep.
Folks are not real thrilled with the salary ranges, which changes who we're able to hire. Now,
Yep.
if council's comfortable with who and how we hire, then we're okay. So we also have the side of the argument that employees are seeing that our economy's improved here, and we're able to get closer to the lower end of the market is in terms of their job positions. But you are the decision makers ultimately, and this is a proposal that you'll have to evaluate whether employees are where you want them in context of the job market. So yes, 7% is higher than 5. 5 is higher than what we've done the last few years. Absolutely, a 13.7% increase in insurance premiums is significant. But our revenues allow us to fund this if council's willing, and we can afford it moving forward. So it doesn't put us in any financial jeopardy.
Do we have any ability in our budgeting process, if we are trying to hire new personnel, and we do struggle with that issue of not meeting market demand, do we have any pool where we can say, we really want this person and we need to put another $2,000 into that salary to get them?
So we currently have that built into our personnel policy.
Okay.
The problem we have when we do that is
I know it tends
I
to put
hire the
everything
new
else out of whack.
accountant at a higher rate than I'm paying Jason. And Jason comes over to me and says, hey man,
No, I know.
I've been here for a number of years, and why are you hiring the new guy?
Sure.
And if you would have
Higher than
offered me
me.
that extra money, I could have stayed.
No, I know it's always a balancing act. I just want to make sure
But
that we did have a pool
There,
there.
yes,
could
we do, and it goes through a process, but
All right.
that can happen.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, we interrupted
Okay.
you. Excuse
No,
me.
you didn't. No, and those are fantastic questions and questions you should be asking. And yeah, we need to explore all of those. The enterprise funds are operating in a good position. Got several capital requests coming through. As we mentioned in our budget meetings, we'll probably talk about rates for those utilities, and maybe we need to look at minor increases every year just to keep up with the cost of construction. As even this clarifier we've talked about tonight's $3 million. Next time around, it'll be 4 or 5, I'm sure. So we need to evaluate that. But as far as fundamentally, they're in good operating positions. Debt service went up a little bit with our animal shelter revenue bond. So we didn't retire any debt. We took on a little bit of new debt this year, but we can accommodate that. And there's the introduction to the budget, unless council has any other questions. Myself, the mayor, Paul, we're all available to go over any of these line items in between. You're welcome to discuss any of these with staff. And yeah, we will set a schedule for
I was
formal
gonna say, I
meetings
would-
here soon.
Can you guys see if you could be available May 13th and 14th? That's a,
Did I have it on my schedule for next week? I thought. Did I?
no, I don't know. You shouldn't. If you did, you are psychic.
You're an overachiever.
I was excited.
But that's normally, if you remember, where we have all of the departments come in, it gives you some time to look through the budget, and then we'll have the departments come in. They can tell you what was in the budget, what they wanted, what we didn't do for good, bad, and different. And also give you kind of an update on how things are going and let you ask any and all questions. So if you have those days
What time are we looking?
Maybe all day,
all day,
both days.
whatever, there's no place you'd rather be than hanging out with us.
If I slipped out for an hour on
That's
one
fine.
of those days, that would be
Truly,
okay.
I had it scheduled on May 6th and 7th from 1 to 5.
No,
Was I just
that?
psychic?
Okay.
you just picked a day.
The 13th, you had it already scheduled?
No, I had
He
it on
had it on
6
the
and
next
7.
week.
the 6th
So if
and
it's on the 13th and 14th, we want to give you enough time to get through
Look through
looking
it.
at the budget and not hand this to you today and then expect you by Monday to know.
Oh, no, I'm looking for several things.
So
Yeah.
from, we talking 8 to noon?
It's not going to, I promise you on everything in my life, it's not going to start at 8 a.m.
Well, I'm just checking to see if
Yeah, I
you
was gonna
changed
say
it
that.
all.
I have not changed in 6 years. It's not starting at 8 a.m. But
So,
we'll have on.
So when should we schedule them?
yeah, do you want to,
I have a, yeah.
We'll sketch out a schedule
And get it to
and
you.
email it to
oh,
you.
we should probably block out from 9 to 5 or something.
If you could
Yeah.
block that out and then we'll get something to you soon.
Jim,
Ani will maybe send you an email. We're in this
It's
little,
on
we're in
you.
a really awkward
Yeah.
transition right now, if you didn't know, as far as scheduling things like that. But we'll get something to you as soon as possible.
Yeah, I'll have to reschedule something, but that's okay.
I'll have to
Yeah.
do some of that too.
Okay.
Doctor.
So-
Where are we in terms of
I can
total
do that.
debt
Well-
load relative to what we can statutorily
I can
carry?
get you that calculation, but we don't have that.
I know
We
we're
don't
not
have very
close,
much
but
debt really, but
okay,
we're certainly on the low end of what we could borrow.
I figured as much, but
I
okay.
think that's in the audit.
Yeah, it
There's
is.
a
It's in the, it's
calculation
in
of-
the,
There's a
I
whole-
ought to
yeah,
go
there should
back
be.
to
it's in the
audit and
NDNA. I
look
just
at
need to
that.
go look that up.
Okay.
When you did this increase, I should ask you back there, but I know this comes up every year with the increase in sales tax, but you never budget to use it all anyway. Do you? Don't you keep a nest egg back
We don't. In fact, you'll look at,
like
like
usual?
building permits.
Yeah.
As Paul and I reviewed that, I mean, that was something in the downturn. It went from like $1.2 million to like
It
$400,000.
dropped
So
fast.
we're budgeting about 600,000, but we bring in over 800,000 in building permits.
Right.
Doesn't
Okay.
mean that money disappears. That's what we use to buy police cars and
Yeah.
various other things. So yeah,
Fire trucks.
No,
Yeah.
not fire
Not
trucks.
fire trucks.
no fire trucks.
I just said that for Mike's benefit.
Yeah.
Hey,
So yeah, we're
pick on
conservative on
that
our
shit.
revenue for sure.
Phillips, you're the best back there.
Yeah.
Yeah, just zip it.
That's right. We need one down there by the liquor store.
All right. Are there any other questions right now? And like I said, between now and
Yeah.
then let us know if you have any questions as you're kind of going through things. As always, as we go through this, there will be changes between now and the final budget.
Yeah.
Okay.
So with that,
Thank you, Jason. I move that we close this meeting and go into closed session.
Adjourn this meeting?
Adjourn it. Yep.
I second that motion.
okay, we'll do a roll call vote. We'll start with Councilwoman Hartley.
Aye.
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 Thank you.